Chapter 39-26. Since he had been speaking ill of her, she didn't mind using a little trick to get back at him. After more than 10 seconds, Huajin suddenly stood up, walked to the bar counter in the room, and started rummaging through the cabinets to look for something. Seeing him busy, Liang Yin asked curiously, "What's wrong?" "Looking for something." "Huh. What are you looking for?" "Looking for..." Huajin turned around and a fruit knife suddenly appeared in his hand. The chill almost blinded her eyes. Liang Yin's face was filled with horror. "What are you doing?" "Since you've ruined my innocence and reputation, I'll fight it out with you." Huajin held the knife and walked towards Liang Yin. Liang Yin curled up into a ball and immediately said, "Hey, I'm using your body now. Even if you want to die, you can't stab yourself." Hearing this, Huajin felt that it made sense. Hence, he rolled up his sleeves and gestured at his wrist and raised the fruit knife high. Liang Yin panicked and immediately rushed up to grab his wrist, trembling in fear. "Hey Huajin, are you crazy? I'll fight it out with you." "No. This is my hand. Calm down, calm down." "Liang Yin, what grudge do I have with you that you have to harm me like this?" "How am I harming you? I see that you two are so compatible, so I'm trying to matchmake you two." "Do you think you can matchmake just anyone? Don't you know that humans and demons have different paths?" "We're not on the same path." Liang Yin was stunned and confused. "What do you mean by humans and demons have different paths? Why don't I understand? I'm a human, he's a demon king, a great demon king, okay? Are you trying to kill me? I'm going to be killed by you. Anyway, if I'm killed, you won't have an easy time either. Now that we're on the same boat, aren't you happy to see me in trouble?" "Very happy. I think it's true love between you two. I'm doing this for your own good. For my own good, right?" Huajin nodded and snorted coldly. Suddenly, he thought of something and his lips curled into an evil smile as he said sinisterly, "All right, since you said it's for my own good, then I appreciate your good intentions. But didn't you say that you like Qinzhou?" Huajin thought it through, or rather thought of a bad idea. He laughed evilly. "Liang Yin, just you wait, I'll help you chase after Qinzhou." As he spoke, he stood up, snorted coldly and left. Liang Yin was stunned at first. She watched as Huajin left the room, but she didn't react for a long time. Ming City Condominium. Qinzhou had just finished his shower when he heard the doorbell ring. He walked to the door. When he opened it, he saw Huajin standing outside with a distressed look. Although he didn't say anything, his watery eyes were obviously saying, "Please take me in, please take me in." Qinzhou frowned and crossed his arms as he blocked the doorway. He had no intention of letting him in. What? Where did this stray dog come from? Huajin didn't have a tail. Otherwise it would shake very hard. "Qinzhou," Huajin looked exhausted. "I'm feeling bitter. What's wrong now?" "Let me in first." "What for?" Chapter 39-27. However, Qinzhou had no sympathy for him and had no intention of taking him in. "Why did you come to stay with me when there's a hotel available?" "I don't want to stay in the same hotel as that woman. I get angry when I see her." "Oh, looks like the two of you are quarreling again." Qinzhou looked at his watch and said coldly, "There's not much time left. If you don't want to stay in the hotel booked by the production team, you can get another room. Don't come to my place." Huajin mumbled, "But I didn't bring any money with me when I came out." When Qinzhou heard this, he casually reached into his pocket from the clothes rack by the entryway cabinet. He pulled out a wallet and was about to give him some money when Qinzhou stopped him. Huajin immediately said, "It's okay. You don't have to go through so much trouble. I'll just stay at your place for one night." Qinzhou looked up and said in disgust, "I don't want to." Huajin complained, "Can you not give up treatment for your misophobia? What does that have to do with you? You're not friendly at all. As a friend you can't be so cold." "Cold? Are we friends?" Huajin said, "If we're not friends, then what are we?" Qinzhou said seriously, "Boss, subordinate." Huajin looked hurt. "All right, look at how pitiful you are. Come in." Qinzhou made way for Huajin, who felt as if he had just been granted amnesty, to squeeze past him. When he entered the living room, he lay on the sofa and complained, "I don't want to serve that little ancestor. Do you know how hateful she is? She actually pretended to be me and confessed to Gongjia." Qinzhou was holding a cup of coffee. When he heard this, he almost spilled the coffee in his hand. "She's so daring?" Gongjia was a big devil. Not to mention Huajin, even Qinzhou didn't dare to be too presumptuous in front of him. Perhaps a newborn calf wasn't afraid of a tiger. Liang Yin had no idea what kind of background Gong Jie had, and she didn't know how frightening he was. Therefore she had no respect for Gong Jie at all. Qin Zhou could not help but imagine a kitten reaching out its little paws to scratch the tiger. In comparison, it was quite cute. Qin Zhou, let me ask you a serious question. Qin Zhou quickly put the coffee cup aside. Ask away. You, do you like men or women? When Qin Zhou heard this, he did not get angry. Instead, he asked meaningfully, what do you think? Judging from your temperament, you should like men. Oh. Qin Zhou snorted slowly and said in a threatening tone, I'll give you one more chance. Answer me again. Women. Qin Zhou glared at him unhappily. You already know the answer. I don't care about your personal life. How would I know if you like men or women? Hua Jin rested his chin on his hand and said, in the past, the media said that you and Gu Xingze were a couple. Qin Zhou reminded him coldly, in the past, there were rumors that you and Yun Shishir were in an underground relationship. Hua Jin said, it's fine if you say this in private. If you say this in front of brother-in-law Mu, he will definitely kill you and then me. Chapter 39-28. At the mention of Mu Yaja, Qin Zhou chuckled and shook his head. A married man can really change so quickly. In the past, Chairman Mu used to be a high-spirited young man, but after he got married, he suddenly became an old cadre. He would never step out of the house after 7 o'clock in the evening. He sleeps early and wakes up early. I heard from Shishir 2 days ago that he has started to focus on his health. At his age, why would he need to maintain his health? He said that he wants to maintain his youthful appearance, live longer, and spend more time with his daughter. Hua Jin said in a daze, daughter slave. He's hopeless. He's the first daughter slave I've seen in history. Qin Zhou raised his eyebrows and said, however, I think a daughter is better than a son. The little princess is so cute that even I like her. I can't help but want to hug her. If you like her, you can have one yourself. Qin Zhou, how many times have you been in love? Hua Jin asked in a roundabout manner. I can't remember. You can't remember? Because I don't spend much time on relationships, so I can't even remember how many women I've had. It's hard for you to maintain this state. You're an adult after all. Don't you have any emotional needs? Hua Jin was a little suspicious. Also, don't you have any physiological needs? You talk a lot of nonsense today. Qin Zhou asked calmly, say it. I want to see what your purpose is this time. Why don't you tell me your purpose? Someone is interested in you. I'm here to sound her out. There are so many people who are interested in me. Who are you referring to? A man or a woman? Not a man, and not a woman. A transvestite? Qin Zhou raised his eyebrows suspiciously. That's really high class. I can't believe I'm attracted to transvestites now. Ahem. She was a woman and now she's a man. I don't know when she'll become a woman again. What do you think of this type? Qin Zhou heard this and finally looked at Hua Jin. He narrowed his eyes and looked a little strange. Hua Jin looked at him expectantly. Are you referring to Liang Yin? As expected of Qin Zhou. You guessed it right away. Hua Jin didn't want to keep him in suspense. He laughed and said, what do you think? You want to pimp me? This? How is this pimping? Hua Jin said gloomily, I'm only in charge of passing on the message. She likes you and has been gossiping about you. So, I simply came here to test your intentions. If you are interested in her, it's not a bad idea for the two of you to try it out. Even if you want to try dating, at least wait until the two of you have swapped bodies. Hua Jin, he bawled loudly, his face full of resentment. If we have to wait for both of our bodies to change back, who knows how long that will take? Do you think I'll be able to wait until our bodies are swapped back in my lifetime? That's not necessarily true. Qin Zhou smiled and said, who knows, maybe you'll be swapped back in an instant. Who knows, maybe you'll be like this for the rest of your life. Hua Jin covered his face in despair. Just thinking about it, if he were to become a woman, he would have to go through menstruation for the rest of his life. He might even have to go through childbirth and menopause. Chapter 39-29. Qin Zhou seemed to have read his mind and said slowly, actually, a woman's menstrual cycle won't last forever. According to research, menstruation stops at a certain age. From then on, a woman will officially enter old age and won't be troubled by menstruation anymore. Hua Jin rolled his eyes. Can you read minds? Qin Zhou ignored him and walked past him to the bar. He poured himself 2 glasses of champagne, turned around and said gloatingly, however, I heard that childbirth is very painful for women. Generally, pain is divided into 10 levels. The pain of childbirth is defined as one of the 10 levels. The roots of Hua Jin's teeth began to chatter. I don't want to have a child. When the time comes, it won't be up to you. It's said that only a woman who has given birth is considered complete. Be strong. Qinzhou, you said that childbirth is the most painful for women. Then, is it more painful to have your testicles broken or to have a child? Hua Jin had turned into a curious child. Qinzhou hesitated for a long time. I think it's more painful for a man to have his testicles broken. After all, if his testicles are broken, he might even lose his life. That makes sense. However, giving birth is a pain that women have to go through, but breaking their testicles isn't. Hua Jin was speechless. Anyway, don't be so pessimistic. Maybe tomorrow morning when you wake up, you'll find that you've changed back to your original self. Hua Jin's lips twitched. If it's really as easy as you say, then it'll be great. What if you change back? Nothing is absolute. Hua Jin said coldly, if I wake up tomorrow morning and find that I've really become myself, I'll be so happy that I'll run around naked. Qinzhou smirked. Sure. If you run around naked, remember to take a picture and post it on Weibo. I've already shared it for you. Ah. Hua Jin stood up and walked to the bathroom. It's getting late. I'll take a shower and then go to bed. You really want to stay here? Qinzhou reminded him kindly. This is a single apartment. There's only one bed. Are you sure you want to sleep with me? Why? Is there a problem? I don't like you. Besides, I don't have any women's clothes here. It's okay, I'll wear a bathrobe to sleep. With that, Hua Jin added, I'm not that pretentious. We're both men. Do you think I'm worried that you'll do something to me? With that, he went into the bathroom and closed the door. Qinzhou drank the champagne in his hand and leaned lazily on the sofa. After Hua Jin left, Liang Yin could not reach him on the phone. She went next door and listened through the door. The ringtone came from inside the room. Could it be that he ran out alone and didn't bring his phone? This fellow in the middle of the night, could he be in any danger? Forget it. Who cares? Liang Yin did not care where he went. She went back to her room and memorized the script seriously. Then she went to bed. However, when he woke up the next day, he could clearly feel someone lying beside him. The reason why she felt that there was someone else was because when she turned over, her arm had clearly touched a slightly warm skin. She woke up in shock and opened her eyes. However, the scene in front of her almost made her heart stop. Chapter 39:30. There was a person lying beside her. A man. This man's facial features were not unfamiliar. Qzhou? She was so frightened that she stuttered. However, the moment her voice came out of her mouth, she realized that the voice she made was her original voice. She widened her eyes and covered her mouth. She was so frightened that she trembled and froze. What the F***ck? What happened to Fei Si? She changed back. Liang Yin had a horrified look on her face as she lightly patted her face. Pa 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 pa. The real touch and the crisp sound immediately pulled her back to reality. Liang Yin gently lifted up her lapel and peeked through her collar. Only then did she realize, she didn't wear inside clothes. She was naked inside. Other than the bathrobe, there was nothing else to cover her. Liang Yin immediately covered the bathrobe tightly. Her mind started to wander. Could it be, she and Hua Jin had already been swapped back, right? Then, after Hua Jin ran out last night, he came to Qinzhou's house and used her body to sleep with Qinzhou. When she thought of this possibility, Liang Yin's expression suddenly became unfathomable. It couldn't be. Hua Jin used her body to sleep with Qinzhou. Slept with Qinzhou. Liang Yin lifted her eyes again and looked at Qinzhou's face. She saw that Qinzhou's eyelids were slightly lowered as he slept. His soft eyelashes, thick and handsome features, even though he was still asleep, he still looked very handsome and charming. But, that was not the main point. The two of them slept like that for the whole night? Liang Yin couldn't tell if she slept with Qinzhou or not. She also didn't know what happened between the two of them last night. She didn't have any experience, so she couldn't tell if there were any changes to the body if something happened between a man and a woman. Liang Yin carefully sat up and glanced down. There wasn't any blood stains on her body. Oh? Her movement seemed to be too loud, and it immediately alarmed Qinzhou, who was beside her. When Qinzhou turned around, Liang Yin was so scared that she immediately lay down obediently. On the other side, Hua Jin also woke up. When he woke up, he found that he was in a hotel booked by the crew. He frowned, sat up and looked around. Immediately, a bunch of question marks appeared. What's going on? How did he woke up here? Where's Qinzhou? Wasn't he At Qin Zhou's apartment yesterday? After taking a shower, she put on Qin Zhou's bathrobe and shamelessly crawled into Qin Zhou's bed. Just like that, she fell asleep. Why was she here when she woke up? Sleepwalking? Hua Jin muttered to himself in confusion. Only after a while did he realize that it was him who had made the sound. His eyes widened to the maximum. Could he have changed back? Hua Jin immediately kicked the blanket away, lifted the bathrobe and looked down at his lower body. He had changed back. It was a pleasant surprise that he had regained something he had lost. Hua Jin was so emotional that tears streamed down his face. He hugged his body tightly and jumped off the bed. I've changed back. I've finally changed back. I thought that I would become a woman for the rest of my life. Qin Zhou was right. The moment he woke up, he had returned to his original body. Could he be the legendary prophet? Chapter 39-31. Ha 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 ha. Hua Jin was so happy that he almost went crazy. He jumped off the bed, shook his butt and smacked it proudly. This feeling was so familiar. How nostalgic. Hua Jin rushed to the bathroom until that familiar and handsome face was reflected in the mirror again. He rubbed his face. That real feeling reminded him repeatedly. This wasn't a dream. This wasn't a dream. This was real. He was so happy that he cried. Then, Hua Jin touched his body from head to toe. There was a sense of excitement that came from regaining what he had lost. In order to prove once again that this wasn't a dream, Hua Jin gave himself another hard slap. The burning pain made him even more excited. This wasn't a dream. This time Qin Zhou really hit the mark. Hua Jin happily took a bath and lay down in the bathtub, enjoying a moment of peace and tranquility. He hadn't enjoyed it so much in a long time. This was because ever since he had become Liang Yin had made it clear that he wasn't allowed to take baths. This was because it wasn't hygienic enough for a girl. Hua Jin loved to take baths. Hence, it was inevitable that he would be ordered to take a bath. As a result, he could only stand in the shower. Sometimes, after filming, taking a bath would make him feel more relaxed. At the same time, on the other side, Liang Yin felt that the days were passing like years. It wasn't the days that felt like years, it was the seconds that felt like years. It was too torturous. She lay upright on the bed with her eyes wide open. She didn't dare to close them for fear that there would be any movement around her. Hence, she just stared at the ceiling and entered a meditative state, not moving at all. She didn't know when Qin Zhou would wake up. Or was she going to sleep for the whole day? Should she get out of bed first, put on her clothes and then leave? As Liang Yin thought this, she mulled over it for a while. Finally, she mustered her courage and sat up slowly. As she moved, she kept an eye on Qin Zhou beside her. As she lifted the blanket, she carefully revealed a section of her calf. Qin Zhou suddenly turned over and his eyelids moved. Then, he's actually awake? Liang Yin was dumbfounded. Qin Zhou turned around just in time to see Liang Yin sitting up. The latter subconsciously tightened her bathrobe around her and pretended to be calm. She planned to pretend that she was still Hua Jin and that she had not switched roles yet. He's awake? Qin Zhou raised his arm and rested his head on it. He raised his eyebrows and suddenly smiled. Why don't you sleep a little longer? Liang Yin subconsciously tightened her bathrobe and said awkwardly, Oh, I'm already awake. Noticing that she was a little shy, Qin Zhou keenly furrowed his brows and was a little suspicious. Hua Jin was not like that. Although Hua Jin was wearing a bathrobe without any protective measures inside, when he was lying on the same bed as him, he was still carefree and didn't seem to mind at all. On the other hand, Liang Yin in front of him was acting shy but pretending to be calm. With just one look, Qin Zhou was a little suspicious. It was Liang Yin and not Hua Jin. After being in the entertainment industry for so many years, there were ups and downs. What kind of world had he not seen and what kind of people had he not met? He had long cultivated a smooth and slick mind, especially his eyes, which were very sharp. He was also quite good at judging people. Chapter 39-32. After being in the entertainment industry for so many years, he had experienced all kinds of ups and downs. He had seen all kinds of people and had long trained himself to be smooth and slick in dealing with people. He was also very good at reading people. Back then, when Hua Jin told him about this, he was skeptical. He believed it because he had a sharp eye for people and could clearly feel that Hua Jin was different. He was skeptical because this matter didn't make sense. It wasn't something that could be explained with the knowledge that he had accumulated over the years. But now, Liang Yin gave him an obvious feeling that something wasn't right. If it were Hua Jin, he definitely wouldn't have reacted this way. Qin Zhou was a little suspicious and called out tentatively, Hua Jin? Liang Yin froze for a few seconds before she reacted. She turned around and smiled. Instinctively, she ran her fingers through her hair. Yes. Qin Zhou frowned when he saw her running her fingers through her hair. Only girls would run their fingers through their hair. Usually, girls cared more about their appearance than men, especially their hairstyles. Although some men were more shameless, at least when it came to Hua Jin, he would never do such a thing. Thus, Qin Zhou became more suspicious. Could it be that Hua Jin and Liang Yin had swapped identities? However, Qin Zhou naturally wouldn't ask directly. Instead, he leaned back and deliberately asked some irrelevant questions. How do you feel? Yes. Yesterday, you cried for a long time. Did I hurt you? Liang Yin didn't quite understand at first. However, when she repeatedly thought about Qin Zhou's words, her heart suddenly started to race. Cried for a long time? What the hell was going on? Actually, Liang Yin hadn't reacted yet. She was a little suspicious about what had happened between her and Qin Zhou yesterday. Her thoughts were already in that direction. Now that Qin Zhou had pointed it out, she started to become more suspicious. Actually, as long as one was a little smarter, they would be able to see through Qin Zhou's probing. First of all, it was Hua Jin who was lying beside Qin Zhou last night. No matter what happened, Hua Jin would never accept another man. Moreover, even if something really happened, Hua Jin was a man. Would he cry like a woman? Secondly, Qin Zhou knew that it was Hua Jin in his body. As a man, no matter how beastly he was, he wouldn't make an example out of Hua Jin. However, Liang Yin was too nervous. She was too concerned about what had happened last night. She was too concerned about it. In fact, after Hua Jin went to bed yesterday, Qin Zhou went to bed. By the time he lay down, Hua Jin had already fallen asleep. Initially, Qin Zhou wanted to get another blanket. However, after tossing and turning, the blanket was too thin. After all, he lived alone and didn't pay much attention to it. The heater was also on in the room. Therefore, he fell asleep just like that. He knew to be careful and avoid it. Hua Jin didn't avoid it at all. He didn't even tie the knot of his bathrobe tightly. It was a little loose, so Qin Zhou slept with his back facing him. Although he knew that it was Hua Jin, he was a man after all. He had some guts. Moreover, Liang Yin was also very beautiful. It was hard not to be tempted by her lying beside him. Out of sight, out of mind. Hence, with that thought in mind, he decided to sleep with his back facing Hua Jin. Chapter 39-33. That night, Qin Zhou prided himself on being a gentleman. He remained calm and unruffled Hua Jin's arms around his waist. It was said that if something happened between a man and a woman in bed, the man would be a beast. But if nothing happened, the man would be worse than a beast. Of course, Qin Zhou would be the latter. Nothing happened, but Qin Zhou saw obvious guilt and awkwardness on Liang Yin's face. At this point, he started to wonder if the two of them had been swapped. Then again, he probed with his suspicions. In the end, Liang Yin let the cat out of the bag. Qin Zhou didn't expose her. To avoid embarrassment. Girls were most particular about their reputation. If he told Liang Yin that he knew she was Liang Yin, then Liang Yin would definitely feel awkward. Qin Zhou pretended not to know. He smiled and said, "I'm just teasing you." Liang Yin muttered, "Teasing me? Last night, nothing happened between us?" Qin Zhou leaned against the headboard and asked curiously, "Do you want something to happen between us?" Liang Yin cleared her throat, her face flushed red from holding back her laughter. "Of course, I don't." Moreover, Qin Zhou crossed his arms and asked curiously, "If something really happened, wouldn't you feel it?" Liang Yin said innocently, "Why would I feel it? Moreover, I don't know how I would feel if something happened." Qin Zhou smiled and didn't say anything. Instead, he got off the bed. As he buttoned up his shirt, he said, "All right, have your breakfast and go home." If Hua Jin had heard Qin Zhou say that, he would have asked sarcastically, "Why are you in such a hurry to chase me away?" But now, Liang Yin nodded like a chick pecking at rice. "Oh, I got it." Liang Yin went into the bathroom, washed her face and brushed her teeth. When she came out, she took her clothes from the clothes rack. Although she didn't like the fact that she didn't have a change of clothes, however, it was better than running around naked. Hua Jin. Liang Yin gnashed her teeth in anger. He would settle the score with this fellow when he got back. After putting on her clothes, Liang Yin walked out of the bedroom and heard the sizzling sound of oil coming from the kitchen. The apartment was a bachelor apartment. The kitchen was semi-open and there was a bar counter. Qin Zhou was wearing an apron. There was a frying pan on the induction cooker. Ding. 4 pieces of toast popped out of the toaster stove beside it. "Take a seat." Qin Zhou's hearing was amazing. Even though his back was facing Liang Yin, he knew that she was walking over. Liang Yin sat down in front of the counter in a daze. After a while, Qin Zhou turned around and placed a tray in front of her. He gave her 3 bottles of jam, blueberry jam, condensed milk and peanut butter. I don't know what flavor you like, but these 3 flavors are my favorite. As Qin Zhou said this, he placed the 4 pieces of toast on her tray and pushed a glass of warm milk in front of her. Holding the frying pan, he carefully placed the sweetened poached eggs on the tray. Liang Yin was flattered. I have breakfast the moment I wake up. Just nice, I'm hungry. I have 2 slices of bread, a poached egg and a bottle of milk every day. Qin Zhou also prepared his portion and sat in front of the counter, facing Liang Yin. Do you need anything else? Chapter 39-34. Actually, I didn't have the habit of eating breakfast in the past. But there was a period of time when my stomach wasn't feeling well, so I just ate it carelessly every day. Not carelessly at all. Liang Yin immediately said, I think this breakfast is very exquisite. Exquisite? It's all done casually. It's already very exquisite. At least I can't make this kind of poached egg. Liang Yin liked the sweet poached egg very much. The soft yolk was easy to poke, and coupled with the fragrant white, she didn't have such skills. But, how did you make such a heart-shaped shape? Qin Zhou looked at her as if she was an idiot. There's a special grinding tool. Oh. Liang Yin also realized that her question was too stupid. She knocked her head in annoyance and looked around curiously as she ate her toast. Seeing that there was an oven in the kitchen, she asked in surprise, You know how to use an oven? Yeah. When I'm bored, I like to think about baking. You know how to bake? Liang Yin was even more surprised. You're really a good family man. Qin Zhou smiled. A necessary skill for a single man. Because I don't have a girlfriend, I have to do everything myself. Liang Yin didn't know why, but her face blushed again and she lowered her head shyly. She felt a little embarrassed. She actually liked Qin Zhou quite a lot. It was just that she didn't seem to be a qualified girlfriend. In terms of cooking, she didn't seem to have any talent. Even the most basic instant noodles would be boiled dry sometimes. Even if she really became Qin Zhou's girlfriend, she would probably be despised. She only knew how to do the housework, but she didn't know how to cook. Yeah, she decided. She wanted to learn how to cook. There was a saying that went, to capture a man's heart, you must capture his stomach. Liang Yin made up her mind. She looked up, intending to ask for more information. Do you have an ideal type? Qin Zhou looked up, looked at her deeply and said meaningfully, We're all men, so our ideal type should be roughly the same. I don't understand. Everyone's aesthetic and ideal type is different. Black hair, waist length, beautiful, big breasts, perky but nothing more. When Liang Yin heard that she wanted a big boob, she said sourly, I heard that women with big boobs are more brainless. It's okay. My woman doesn't need brains. It's best if she's pretty, sweet and lovable. As long as she's as beautiful as a flower, I'll take care of her. With Qin Zhou's words, Liang Yin felt that she had no chance. She instinctively lowered her head and glanced at her own. See can't be considered big. It could only be considered normal. Shallow. Liang Yin complained. Qin Zhou smiled and smeared the toast with blueberry jam. Then he curled his lips meaningfully. Men are all superficial. Liang Yin. Qin Zhou paused for a moment before continuing. However, if you're particularly outstanding in other aspects, even if you don't have a devilish figure, it's not impossible to make an exception for you. For example, the kind that knows how to act coquettishly. Acting coquettishly? Liang Yin was a little surprised. You like girls who act coquettishly? Girls who act coquettishly are the cutest. I don't like girls who act coquettishly. Chapter 39-35. Liang Yin licked her lips but did not say anything. She touched her cheeks as if she did not know how to act coquettishly. Qin Zhou took the last bite of his toast and glanced at her. He rubbed his fingers to clean the breadcrumbs on them. Do you still want milk? Okay. A cup of warm milk in the morning is better for the stomach. Liang Yin stared blankly at Qin Zhou as he stood up. For a moment she could not shift her gaze away. Hiss! In front of the mirror, Hua Jin picked up the mousse and sprayed it on his blow-dried hair. He carefully combed and styled his hair. He wrapped a towel around his waist. As he combed and styled his hair, he noticed from the corner of his eye that his chest muscles had shrunk a little. Tisk. It had only been a while, but Liang Yin did not pay attention to training. Even her chest muscles had shrunk a little. Good. Hard. Bang. Damn it, he had trained for so long to develop such poor chest muscles, but it had caused Liang Yin to lose them. How infuriating. Hua Jin pinched his chest, feeling a little dispirited. It's okay. Since it's back now, I'll start training again later. Hua Jin touched his chest again and checked his abdominal muscles. Fortunately, his abdominal muscles did not shrink. He was extremely lucky. Ding dong. The doorbell rang. Hua Jin poked his head out and looked in the direction of the door. Could it be that Liang Yin had returned? He walked to the door and looked through the peephole. He almost suffocated when he saw who it was. Gong? He had just uttered a word when he covered his mouth tightly. Gongjia. Why is it him? What is he doing here? Hua Jin leaned on the door again and peeked through the peephole, only to see Gongjia staring fixedly at the peephole. It was as if the man could see him through the peephole. For a moment he felt that he had nowhere to hide. He had to pretend that he was not here. Hua Jin turned around and tiptoed back to the living room, pretending that he was not here. Bang! A loud sound was heard. Gongjia kicked the door hard. Open the door. Hua Jin shuddered violently, and his shoulders shrunk subconsciously. He clenched his fists in grief and indignation. Outside the door, Gongjia said lazily, Hua Jin, I know you're inside. How did he know? Could it be that he had X-ray vision? Hua Jin turned around suspiciously and bit his lip nervously. This Liang Yin. This pig of a teammate. Did she really confess to Gongjia? Hua Jin had always felt that Liang Yin must be joking with him. If it was a joke, why did the Gongjia come to the hotel? Open the door. Gongjia said again, I'm warning you, my patience is limited. Hua Jin was flustered. He wanted to go back to the living room to get his coat and put it on, but no matter how hard he searched, he could not find where Liang Yin had left it. Gongjia kicked the door again, looking like he was about to break in. He ran his fingers through his hair, walked to the door and took a deep breath. Only then did he muster up the courage to open the door. Then, with a smile that he thought was extremely bright and friendly, he looked at the man outside the door. Master Jia? The brighter Hua Jin's smile was, the darker Gongjia's face became. Outside the door, Gongjia looked Hua Jin up and down. He was half naked with a towel wrapped around his waist. His hair was carefully combed, and the smile on his face was as fake as it could be. Chapter 39-36. No. I didn't. Then why did you wake up so late? Ah. Hua Jin immediately yawned and pretended to be sleepy. I guess I just woke up. He was halfway through his sentence when Gongjia narrowed his eyes at his meticulously combed hairstyle. Then he glanced at the sleepy expression on his face. Gongjia's thin lips curled up coldly. Obviously, he didn't think that his reason was convincing. Do you know how to sleepwalk? I haven't woken up yet. I've already combed my hair. Gongjia raised his eyebrows at the man's embarrassed expression and said calmly, Say it. What's the matter? What the hell? Hua Jin was a little frustrated. Gongjia came to his hotel early in the morning and gave him a big surprise. In the end, he asked him what was the matter. Hua Jin was angry, but he didn't dare to say anything. He still smiled and said, Nothing much. Why would I look for you? Nothing much. You asked me to meet you at the hotel? Gongjia was getting more suspicious. Hua Jin was shocked and stunned when he heard this. What? He asked him to meet him at the hotel? When did this happen? Could it be, Liang Yin asked him to meet her? This guy, Gongjia had been observing his expression. Initially, he was still wondering if the person who provoked him at the Mu residence yesterday was Hua Jin or Liang Yin. He thought that if it was Hua Jin, he would never dare to tease him. What kind of guts does Hua Jin have to make fun of me? However, Gongjia was now completely sure that the person who was spouting nonsense at the Mu residence yesterday was Hua Jin. Their identities had been swapped long ago. At the thought of this, Gongjia's lips curled into a cold smirk as he walked into the room. Locking his gaze on Hua Jin, he closed the door behind him. With a click, the door locked automatically. Hua Jin was still feeling humiliated from being betrayed by Liang Yin. When he heard the door, he immediately looked up and saw that Gongjia had actually stepped into the room. The door behind him was already closed. This. Hua Jin looked at Gongjia and then at the door. He instinctively took a few steps back. He wanted to laugh, but the laugh that came out was uglier than crying. Master Jia, what are you doing? Hua Jin immediately moved aside. Since you're here, have a seat. As he spoke, he turned around and walked towards the living room like a deserter. He poured tea and water in a flurry. Gongjia crossed his arms and calmly observed his brother's every move before he suddenly blurted out, I've thought it through. Hua Jin raised his head with a puzzled expression. What do you mean? Didn't you say yesterday that you have feelings for me? Gongjia looked serious. Why don't we try to get along? Everywhere, Hua Jin was so frightened that he almost bit his tongue in his stutter. He looked embarrassed. What do you mean by that? Were you serious about what you said yesterday? Gong Jie's tone suddenly became extremely stern. Are you toying with me? No, no. No. How would I dare to toying with you? Gong Jie said. Then you're serious. Hua Jin was speechless. He chose to play dead. Don't play dead. Gong Jie harumphed coldly. He walked straight to the sofa and sat down. Patting his thigh, he said, Come here. Chapter 39-37. Was this the rhythm of letting him sit on his lap? Even if he really wanted to do something, wasn't this rhythm a little too fast? Hua Jin was a little confused by Gong Jie's words. I told you to come over. Oh, Hua Jin did not dare to go against his wishes. He walked over fearfully and sat upright on Gong Jie's lap. He felt that the chill from the iceberg behind him was getting more obvious. Did I ask you to sit on my lap? Hua Jin was so scared that he shivered, but he wanted to cry but had no tears. Weren't you the one who slapped your thigh and asked me to sit? Wasn't that what you meant? Even if you were summoning a dog, you couldn't just give out commands. He shuddered in fright and subconsciously tried to shift his butt onto the sofa. Gong Jie, however, gripped his waist in displeasure and he could no longer move. Gong Jie leaned close to his ear and whispered, Are you that impatient? His charming breath brushed against his face, as if countless cat claws were scratching him, itchy and hot. Hua Jin was a little depressed. What do you mean impatient? What else? Gong Jie asked calmly. Why else would you sit on my lap so intimately? Why are you playing hard to get and now you want to seduce me? When Hua Jin heard this, he flew into a rage out of humiliation, but he did not flare up. He held back his anger and said indifferently, If you're really such an upright person, how could I seduce you? Unless you like men too? That's impossible. Why is it impossible? Gong Jie raised his eyebrows and gently pinched his face. How do you know that I'm not interested in men? Maybe it's just like what you said, I haven't fully developed it. Maybe what you said yesterday has developed me. This action was so intimate that Hua Jin was instantly like a frightened cat, his hair standing on end. What do you mean? Didn't you say yesterday that you like me not because you like men but because the person you like is a man? Gong Jie hugged Hua Jin's waist affectionately. Didn't you say yesterday that you like me not because you like men but because the person you like is a man? Did he say that? It must have been Liang Yin again. Hua Jin's face darkened even more. Once again he deeply experienced what it meant by extreme joy begets sorrow. Actually, I didn't say those words yesterday. Do you believe me? As Hua Jin spoke, he looked at Gong Jie with a sincere expression. But he saw Gong Jie staring at him coldly. Hua Jin, all right then. Forget it if you don't believe me. Hua Jin said angrily, Anyway, I didn't say those things. Liang Yin said those things to you on purpose to get back at me. I'm innocent. I've always found it strange. What's strange? Tell me what kind of man would make another man blush? Unless there's something wrong with it. Gong Jie came to this conclusion. Hua Jin was speechless. There's nothing to be afraid of admitting that you like a man. When Hua Jin heard that, he was even more speechless. He stood up angrily and said, Anyway, you won't believe me no matter what I say. It's superfluous to explain. Hua Jin was about to leave, but Gong Jie held on tightly to his waist. Let go. Chapter 39-38. This scene frightened Hua Jin quite a bit. Gong Jie did not put all his weight on him. However, when Hua Jin's gaze fell on his face, it was as if his cold eyes were going to burn through his face. Hua Jin was about to speak when he heard a beep. The door opened. Liang Yin swiped the room card and walked into the living room. However, when she stepped into the living room, she saw the scene on the sofa. She was instantly dumbfounded. What was going on? She was caught off guard and saw such a scene. Hua Jin was also stunned. He did not expect that Liang Yin would come back at this time. She had the room card with her, but she did not expect that Liang Yin would come back at this time. He was stunned for a moment. When he came back to his senses, he immediately became unusually angry. Liang Yin. He yelled at her sternly. Liang Yin instantly felt that things were not going well. In a short period of time, she immediately regained her train of thought. Yesterday at the Mu residence, she had arranged to meet Gong Jie at the hotel. She had said that she had something important to discuss with him. Initially, she had wanted to use this opportunity to intimidate Hua Jin. She did not expect that Gong Jie would really come back. In the end, she did not expect that Gong Jie seemed to take it seriously. Liang Yin shrunk her shoulders and immediately turned around, wanting to escape. Gong Jie turned around and looked at Hua Jin, who was struggling to get up. Liang Yin, you're not allowed to leave. Come back and explain everything to me. Before he could finish his sentence, Liang Yin opened the door and slipped out. She did not forget to close the door behind her. Bang! A loud sound was heard. The door was shut. Hua Jin's face became even more distorted. This Liang Yin was a fraud. A fraud. He wanted to strangle her to death. Gong Jie looked at Hua Jin's reaction and then looked at Liang Yin's guilty look. He was not stupid. Since he was the leader of Hurricane and had outstanding IQ, he naturally figured out what was going on. It seemed that the person who had confessed to him yesterday was really Liang Yin. Maybe this was a prank aimed at Hua Jin. However, even though he had figured out the whole story, he did not show any signs of understanding. Hua Jin looked at Gong Jie and immediately explained seriously, "The person who confessed to you yesterday was really not me." Gong Jie remained silent. His eyes, which were as deep as an ancient pond, were devoid of any ripples. Hua Jin felt a little hopeless. Gong was so smart that he could not figure out what was going on. He had already explained it this way. If he still did not understand, then Hua Jin really did not know how to explain it. How infuriating. Gong Jie smirked and lowered his head. The tip of his nose was almost touching Hua Jin's nose. The distance between the two of them was closer than ever. He even felt that the air he breathed in was coming from between his lips and the tip of his nose. "I'll let you off this time." Gong Jie let go of him and sat up slowly. Hua Jin saw him get up and did not dare to let his guard down. He stood up warily and looked very guarded. Gong Jie did not care about his vigilance. He stood up and walked towards the door. It was only after Gong Jie left the room that Hua Jin heaved a sigh of relief, feeling as if a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. Pervert. Liang Yin went back to her room. She was restless. She stood up for a while and then paced back and forth. The doorbell suddenly rang. Chapter 39. Liang Yin was shocked, but she knew that Hua Jin must have come looking for her. She would have to face him sooner or later. Liang Yin clenched her fists and walked to the door. She opened the door with fear and trepidation, only to see Hua Jin standing at the door, glaring at her. The anger on his face was scarier than ever. Liang Yin. Here. Liang Yin stood at attention. Then, like a country bumpkin, she respectfully welcomed him into the room. "Boss, don't be angry. This isn't... I was just kidding, but I didn't think that the joke would get out of hand." Hua Jin questioned, "You had a date with Gong Jie yesterday?" Liang Yin didn't dare to hide anything and nodded reluctantly. "You were the one who asked him to meet at the hotel." "Yeah," Liang Yin hurriedly explained, "I really didn't think that he would come. What else did you do behind my back?" "I didn't do anything." "Scam. Stupid teammate, how can you scam me like this?" Hua Jin snorted angrily. However, when Liang Yin came back to her senses, she straightened her back. It was obvious that she had thought of something after hearing what he said. Suddenly, her anger flared up and she grabbed him by the collar. It was said that women changed their faces faster than flipping the pages of a book. Even Hua Jin didn't think that Liang Yin would change her face so suddenly. "You're still talking about me? What about you? How did you scam me? Where did you go last night?" When Hua Jin heard this, he understood what was going on. He turned his face away guiltily and didn't want to look at him anymore. "I was just joking and it didn't cause you any harm. What about you? You actually went to Qingzhou's place last night." Hua Jin retorted stubbornly, "Is there a problem?" He didn't think that there was a problem. Men's brain circuits were usually bigger, but women were more sensitive and delicate. Hua Jin didn't think there was anything wrong with sleeping in the same bed as Qingzhou. He even asked, "How does it feel to wake up with your idol?" "What do you mean? Give me back my reputation." Hua Jin argued, "It's just sleeping in the same bed. What's wrong with that? How is it a matter of reputation?" Liang Yin sneered, "Ha! What was the problem? How did you guys sleep last night?" "Just like in the past." Hua Jin replied in all seriousness. "After I took a shower, I slept at his place." "Ha! Not only that, right? You even shared a bed with him. If it weren't for the two of us swapping places today, I wouldn't even know that you're ruining my body like this." Liang Yin was obviously very angry. Hua Jin, on the other hand, was full of righteousness. "How is this a waste? I haven't been in a relationship yet, and I'm randomly sharing a bed with a man. Don't you think it's ridiculous?" "What do you mean by ridiculous?" Hua Jin harumphed and purposely teased, "Don't you have a crush on him? Aren't I creating an opportunity for you guys?" Liang Yin was even angrier when she heard this. She was so angry that she laughed. Is this how you create opportunities? Your so-called opportunity is to create an opportunity to share a bed. Also you're only wearing a bathrobe? Because I didn't bring a change of clothes. But you can't sleep with him? Chapter 39-40. What's done can't be undone? Liang Yin was completely horrified. This Hua Jin actually dared to have such an idea. Oh, I see. Then you're really doing it for my own good. Then why didn't you and Gong Jie do it? Pounce on him? Speaking of which, when I opened the door just now, I found you and Gong Jie on the bed. Did I interrupt your progress? It would have been better if she hadn't mentioned this. The moment she did, Hua Jin was instantly enraged. You still dare to talk about it? Let me ask you, why did you ask Gong Jie out at the hotel? What's your motive? Liang Yin cleared her throat and then imitated Hua Jin's teasing tone. She said lightly, what's done can't be undone. What's done can't be undone. Hua Jin reached out his finger and poked her forehead angrily. What's done can only be done between men and women. Do you know that you're pushing me into a sea of fire? Why would I harm you? Liang Yin pretended to be kind and said, no way, I see that you like him. How can you tell that I like him? If you don't like him, Liang Yin paused and raised her eyebrows. Then why do you look shy? Shy? How can you tell that I'm shy? You can't hide your shy expression. Hua Jin, if you really don't like him, you wouldn't have such an attitude. You're so timid. Even if you like a man, there's nothing wrong with that, right? Liang Yin's words undoubtedly stunned Hua Jin. He was still stubborn. I don't have any feelings for him at all. That's just what you think. Liang Yin asked again, you haven't made it clear. Did anything happen between you and Qinzhou yesterday? Hua Jin was still immersed in his messy thoughts. Hearing Liang Yin's question, she asked impatiently, it doesn't matter whether it happened or not. Don't you know? How would I know what happened last night? I don't have any experience. Is your first time still there? Hua Jin suddenly asked. Even though Liang Yin and Hua Jin were no longer in a normal relationship, she still felt a little uncomfortable being questioned like this. She blushed and said, I haven't had a boyfriend yet. What do you think? You haven't had a boyfriend yet? Because my ideal type is Tang Yu. And now? Hua Jin teased, is he still your ideal type? No. A look of disgust appeared on Liang Yin's face. I must have been blind to fall in love with such an idol. If a girl doesn't have it for the first time, it will be very painful. How did you know? Hua Jin looked at her as if she was an idiot. Liang Yin blushed and didn't ask any more. But she vaguely remembered that Qinzhou had asked her a question. Did I hurt you last night? This sentence had a deep meaning behind it. Liang Yin was still a little doubtful. Are you sure nothing happened last night? I'm sure. Hua Jin said seriously, come on, I'm a man of principles. Do you think I'll play pranks on other people's bodies? You only wore a bathrobe and nothing underneath to sleep on the same bed with Qinzhou. That's quite unprincipled, Hua Jin retorted. Who told you to provoke me first? Chapter 39-41. Hua Jin said angrily, at the end of the day, you shouldn't have used my body to provoke the Gong Jie. Did you ask for my opinion when you did that? Since you didn't ask for my opinion when you played a prank, why couldn't I? Just because you're a girl, does that give you special privileges? People should learn to put themselves in other people's shoes, what should be done and what shouldn't be done. Since you said that two people should be responsible for each other, then did you do it? Liang Yin was speechless. Initially, she hadn't taken this matter to heart. However, after Hua Jin's reminder, she suddenly realized that she had indeed gone overboard with what she had done. I'm sorry, Liang Yin immediately apologized. I didn't think that you would mind so much. Anyone would mind. Hua Jin continued, yesterday nothing happened between Qinzhou and me, I only tried to sound him out. But he's so smart that he immediately guessed that I was trying to sound him out for you. Don't worry, even if the two of us slept on the same bed, nothing substantial happened, so it wouldn't be a big deal. But you said that you actually stole a kiss from the Gong Jie? You said that I went overboard, but I haven't said that you did. As Hua Jin said this, he sat down on the sofa, picked up the script on the table and started to read it seriously. Liang Yin didn't dare to disturb him, but she kept thinking about how to apologize to him and beg for his forgiveness. Hence, she stayed in the room and refused to leave. Hua Jin didn't bother her and let her stay on the sofa. He hadn't memorized the script before, but since he had switched back, he had to memorize the script properly since they were going to shoot tomorrow. Unknowingly, it was already noon. Hua Jin finished memorizing a few pages of lines. When he lifted his head to stretch his body, He realized that Liang Yin was curled up on the sofa and had already fallen asleep. He walked over and gave her a gentle nudge. Liang Yin woke up instantly and sat up. She saw Hua Jin standing in front of her with no expression on his face. "Did you not sleep well last night?" When Liang Yin heard this, she shook her head and said, "No, I don't know. I just felt very sleepy, maybe there was nothing to do." Suddenly, she didn't need to memorize the script. Instead, she didn't feel relaxed and only bored. When Hua Jin heard this, he smiled and said, "Let's go out for lunch. After lunch we'll rehearse." "Oh," Liang Yin's question, "you're not angry anymore?" "Yes. I'm very." Hua Jin then added, "But men shouldn't stoop to a woman's level. She's I lest tssst, and we'll sour?" Since she had already said so, Hua Jin did not say anything else and changed the topic. "What do you want to eat?" "I have soft." "Okay. All right." At the mention of pizza, Liang Yin suddenly smiled mischievously and said, "Boss, I'm working for you. You haven't paid me yet." Hua Jin took out his cell phone and asked, "Do you still remember your bank account number?" "Yeah, I remember." "What? Give it to me. Are you going to pay me?" Chapter 3942. Hua Jin said generously, "I'll transfer the money directly to your account." "Okay." Liang Yin gave him her bank account number. Hua Jin held his cell phone. After a while, Liang Yin's cell phone beeped with a notification that the money had been transferred to her account. Liang Yin picked up her cell phone and glanced at it. It was a notification from her account that she had received $1 million. She was so shocked that her eyes widened. "What? 1 million? Yeah. So much." Liang Yin had never seen so much money before and was dumbfounded. $1 million. She had only acted in a few scenes for him to earn so much money. Liang Yin felt that this money was like a pie that had fallen from the sky. "You acted in 2 episodes for me. I told you before that we'll split the pay in half. $1 million for 2 episodes. As Hua Jin said this, his lips curled into a smile. "Moreover, you acted very well. You deserve this pay." Liang Yin hugged her cell phone in surprise, her face full of happiness. Seeing her expression, Hua Jin couldn't help but laugh. "Do you feel like you've suddenly become a nouveau riche? Ah, did you know? Some people in my hometown demolished a few hundred square meters of private property. Guess how much it cost to demolish it?" "How much?" $800,000. Hua Jin expressed his surprise. "What kind of remote place is your hometown? Why is it only $800,000? Anyway, it's not far from the capital. But it's been developed into a highway." After all, to Liang Yin, getting $1 million after acting in such a small role was undoubtedly the same as winning the lottery. As Liang Yin said this, she stood up and patted Hua Jin's shoulder generously. "Let's go, I'll treat you to pizza today." "Yo, boss, Liang is so generous." There was a Western restaurant in the film studio complex. It was very secretive. Basically, it was a private room. Most paparazzi wouldn't be able to sneak in. Hence, most celebrities liked to dine at this Western restaurant. On the way, they bumped into some celebrities. When they saw Hua Jin, they greeted him respectfully. Although Hua Jin wasn't considered a veteran actor in the entertainment industry, his acting skills were one of the best among the new generation of male idols. The producers and directors in the industry thought highly of him and he had many roles. At the entrance of the Western restaurant, they bumped into the assistant director of Heavy Snow. Usually, in a film crew, most of the assistant directors were in charge of casting. Upon seeing Hua Jin, the assistant director grumbled to him. "Something happened in the production crew recently." "What happened?" Hua Jin could not help but express his concern when he saw the assistant director's frown. "Didn't you know? Li Jin was kicked out. It flew." Hua Jin was a little surprised. "Oh, speaking of which, who is Li Jing?" "Oh." The director knew that Hua Jin usually did not get close to other actresses, so he mentioned, "She's the one who played Gu Huanyao." "Auntie?" In the production crew, although Li Jin looked younger, she was still old. Hence, everyone in the crew called her Auntie. Why was she kicked out? Chapter 3943. The assistant director's face was full of worry as he said, "Look, we've been choosing and choosing but we haven't picked anyone." Liang Yin stood at the side bored to death. She was sizing up the people coming and going. On average, 1 out of 5 people was a big star. She watched them with great interest. Usually, she wouldn't have such an opportunity to be in close contact with these big stars. She would only catch a few glances on TV. At the film studio, any one of them would be a star. Liang Yin was already used to it. It wasn't like her first day on set, when she was surrounded by big stars and felt a little uneasy. Now she had a normal attitude towards stars. She felt that these stars were good at acting and were pretty, but they were actually no different from ordinary people. Especially after spending so much time with Hua Jin, she felt that stars were also ordinary people. It was just entertainment that gave them the halo of idols. Hua Jin chatted with the assistant director for a while, then he turned around and called out to Liang Yin, "Liang Yin, go in." Liang Yin turned around, nodded, and walked towards Hua Jin. Seeing Liang Yin beside Hua Jin, the assistant director's eyes lit up. "Hua Jin, who is this?" "Oh," Hua Jin introduced her, "my assistant." "Are all your assistants so pretty? I don't remember you being this assistant before. Are you talking about Xiaoqi?" Hua Jin got angry at the mention of Xiaoqi. Xiaoqi was currently doing advanced training at the company's headquarters. When she came back, he would find a chance to get rid of her. He was a very vengeful person. Especially after seeing Xiaoqi's ugly face, he was secretly certain that when he had the chance, he would get rid of her. The assistant director, on the other hand, was sizing up Liang Yin seriously. His gaze was full of admiration, and he praised her from time to time. "Your assistant looks quite like a star. What's her name?" Liang Yin smiled and introduced herself naturally, "Liang Yin." "Liang Yin. That's a good name." As the assistant director spoke, he smiled and asked Liang Yin, "Do you want to come for the audition? Now there's an empty role in the production team, and we're worried that we can't find a suitable candidate." Liang Yin was a little surprised. She did not expect to be invited to an audition. When Hua Jin heard this, he was also a little surprised. However, he had originally thought that since there was an opportunity, he might as well let Liang Yin have a try. After all, her image was not bad and her acting skills were also very good. He belonged to the gifted type. He originally wanted to wait until dinner to ask for Liang Yin's opinion. But he did not expect that the assistant director would choose Liang Yin at first glance and invite her. Hua Jin also felt that Liang Yin could give it a try. "Are you willing?" As she was Hua Jin's assistant, the assistant director's attitude was more polite. Liang Yin glanced at Hua Jin as if asking for his opinion. Hua Jin immediately said, "If you're willing, you can give it a try." "Okay." Liang Yin smiled and said, "It's my honor." "That's good." The assistant director nodded and said, "Tomorrow afternoon, you will follow Hua Jin to the set and recite a few lines. If Director Gu sees it and says it's okay, then you'll pass." As the role of the female lead was not very important, the basic knowledge of lines and acting skills were not particularly demanding. It mainly depended on one's state and looks. Chapter 39-44. The assistant director still had something to do. He said goodbye to Hua Jin and left in a hurry. Liang Yin watched as the assistant director left. She turned around and glanced at Hua Jin. She was obviously a little conflicted. "Audition. I didn't expect to receive an audition invitation." Hua Jin smiled and pushed the door open. As he walked towards the private room, he said, "Do you like acting?" "I didn't like it before, but after interacting with it, I find it interesting." When Hua Jin heard this, his lips curled into a smile. "Filming isn't that easy. In your eyes, you might think that acting is just about having a lot of money, a lot of fans, limitless glory, and everyone knows your name. But in reality, acting is not that simple. You might be slandered, spread rumors, or even be subjected to online violence. When people scold you, you can't talk back. Why? Because you're a public figure." Hua Jin said, "Even if you use a fake account to scold people, you'll still suffer a lot if the netizens find out. That's scary. But if you have a strong background, no one will dare to touch you." "I don't have a strong background." Liang Yin was a little scared. After all, she didn't particularly like acting. She was interested in acting because the pay was high and sometimes she felt that acting was quite fun. But if it was really as scary as Hua Jin said, she was a little scared. "But you can sign a contract with Qingzhou." Hua Jin smiled mischievously. "If you become his artist, won't you have a lot of opportunities to interact with him?" "Agent?" An agent is the agent of an artist's career. A good agent has a lot of resources and can help you with everything outside of work. Liang Yin was a little moved when she heard this. She admired Qingzhou. She felt that Qingzhou had a very mature temperament. It was a charm that men of Tang Yu and Hua Jin's age didn't have. Many girls liked men who were older than them. Mature, steady, reliable, and gave them a sense of security. She wasn't a shy person. If she liked someone, she would say it directly. "Is he willing to sign me?" Hua Jin said, "I'll help you find out later." "All right." Liang Yin said with a smile, "After it's done, I'll treat you to something delicious." Who cares? Also, keep your distance from me. If you cause another soul misalignment, I'll definitely jump off a building. When Liang Yin heard this, she also kept a distance from him with lingering fear. Especially when they passed by the fountain in the courtyard, the two of them were especially vigilant. As the saying goes, once bitten, twice shy. After lunch, the two of them went back home. Liang Yin accompanied Hua Jin to go through the script. Hua Jin also gave her the lines for Ubuteri. Liang Yin took it back and memorized it seriously. The next day, Hua Jin brought Liang Yin to the set. He acted, while Liang Yin was brought to the audition by the assistant director. When Hua Jin finished filming, he saw that Liang Yin was already sitting in the waiting area. However, her expression was a little strange. It was indescribably strange. He walked over and asked her, "How was the audition?" "Was okay." "Okay?" This word seemed a little ambiguous. Liang Yin's expression was obviously not right. Chapter 39:45. Director Gu is quite satisfied with me, but the assistant director said that I did well in the audition. However, there is another person who wants the role. If I want to act, I have to go through a second round of auditions. A second round of auditions? When Hua Jin heard this, he didn't think much of it. Usually there is only one round of auditions. Why would there be a second round? Is the assistant director trying to take advantage of you? Take advantage of me? Hua Jin nodded and said, "Yes. After all, the roles in this production are all highly sought after. Basically, once you act in it, you will be famous. There are many small-time actresses who want to act in it, but Director Gu has always looked down on them. The assistant director has been racking his brains over this matter. I think he wants to use this opportunity to get some benefits from you." "Money?" "Yes. I also thought that he wanted to use this as an excuse to ask me for packaging fees, so I asked him indirectly. He said that I don't need to pay for packaging fees." Hua Jin felt that it was even more strange. "So when is the second round of auditions?" Liang Yin answered honestly, "Tonight." "Tonight?" "Yes, I'll go to his room. He said that he wants me to act one more time so that he can think about it carefully." As Liang Yin said this, her expression became even more strange. "But won't it be too suspicious if I go to his room tonight? He won't want to sleep with me, will he?" When Hua Jin heard this, his face darkened. "He wants you to go to his room? Tonight?" "Yes. Do you even need to ask?" When Hua Jin heard this, he was also very angry. He sat beside her and said, "You're not allowed to go. He obviously wants to sleep with you. When you go into his room, you won't be able to tell how many people are in the room and whether you can walk out of it." This assistant director also had a criminal record. Rather than a criminal record, it was more like one was willing to be hit and the other was willing to be hit. As the assistant director, he was in charge of the casting process. Other than the roles that the sponsors and the director had assigned, the other roles depended on what he said. Naturally, there would be people who wanted to climb up the ladder. In fact, there were many of them. However, this assistant director was known for his ugly table manners in the industry. He was quite ruthless when it came to playing with women, especially when he used the excuse of discussing the script to invite two popular actresses to talk about the script. It would have been fine if it was just the unspoken rules, but he had already instructed the paparazzi to release the news in advance and take pictures of the two actresses following him into the hotel. Then he held onto these photos and waited for the drama to finish filming and enter the promotional period. Then he casually released these photos, but it was still considered a sensation for a while. In reality, no one cared about these two young actresses. All they cared about was the dark side of the entertainment industry that no one knew about. Because of this, the show became popular and was bought over by a media website at a high price. The viewership ratings also broke records. However, the reputations of these two young actresses had been completely ruined. They had been used as stepping stones and there was no place for them to cry. Later on, she had plastic surgery, changed her name and took on a few dramas, but they were all lukewarm. As for this assistant director, because of the unbreakable publicity, he was still doing well. The entertainment industry was like this. It was an abyss of suffering. It was easy to dodge a spear in the open, but hard to defend against a stab in the dark. In order to rise and fall in the industry, it depended on who was ruthless enough. Usually, those who stood at the top were those who could go all out. Chapter 39:46. Liang Yin still had a lingering fear when she heard this. Luckily, she had reported this matter to Hua Jin in advance because she also felt that it was quite suspicious. That was why she had her suspicions and told Hua Jin about it. She didn't expect that there would be so much involved. "Then I won't go." Liang Yin knew that this opportunity was very precious. If she didn't go, she might even offend the assistant director. However, she really didn't want to come into contact with such things. If this was the price to pay for being famous, she was willing to give it up. Sigh. Liang Yin had underestimated her own experience. Hua Jin saw her disappointed look and comforted her. It's okay. It's not like this role is the only thing you want. Later, I'll ask Qin Zhou to see if there are any vacancies in the cast. No need. Liang Yin smiled and said, actually, I think being an assistant is pretty good. I can help you with the scenes and also be a bystander. In this industry, there were often some shocking things that could be gossiped about. Although it was quite world-shattering, Liang Yin was used to it. She enjoyed the gossip. Hua Jin didn't take it to heart. After all, Liang Yin didn't seem to take it to heart either. At night, Hua Jin was reading the script when his cell phone suddenly rang. He picked up the phone and realized that it was the assistant director. There were 2 assistant directors in the cast. One was in name and the other was in charge of casting and high-level affairs. His name was Meng Hao. Hua Jin didn't give him a contact number, but there was a group account in the cast. Looking at this account, Hua Jin recognized that it was Meng Hao. Usually, Meng Hao wouldn't call him unless it was something important. He guessed that this must have something to do with Liang Yin. When he picked up the phone, the other party asked directly, Hua Jin, what's wrong with your assistant? Didn't you say that there's an audition tonight? Why don't I see her? Also, I can't get through to her cell phone. Director Meng, I've heard about what happened today. I was the one who told Liang Yin not to go. Liang Yin is innocent. You can fool her, but can you fool me? Do you think I don't know what you're planning? In this industry, if you want to be in a film, you have to go all out. But Liang Yin is my assistant. Even if you want to give me face, you shouldn't do this. That's fine, but you actually came to me to ask for him? There was a deathly silence on the other side. After a long time, Meng Hao smiled. He naturally expected that Liang Yin must have told Hua Jin about this matter, so he didn't avoid it. After all, she was just an assistant. She expected that Hua Jin would at most turn a blind eye to it and not care about it. Meng Hao had taken a liking to Liang Yin. With Liang Yin's looks, it was definitely rare to see someone like her in the entertainment industry. Many celebrities in the entertainment industry had their looks altered, but they often looked like the product of an abortion line. This included the newcomers who had undergone plastic surgery to look like popular actresses. Yun Shishir, who had been popular for a while, had such a pure and innocent face. She was already a little tired of looking at all these faces. There weren't many natural beauties like Liang Yin. She was definitely a treasure. The more Meng Hao looked at her, the more he liked her. This is an inevitable process. You should know. Who doesn't come here at this time? If you can't even accept this, how can you stay in the entertainment industry? Chapter 39:47. When he said this, Meng Hao was immediately displeased. Even his tone became lukewarm. Hua Jin, you're not ordinary now. You're famous. Don't forget how you got to where you are in the past. You're looking down on the unspoken rules. Don't you think that your unbearable past is a stain that you can never erase? Do you think that the past doesn't matter now that you're famous? Hua Jin is just an assistant. Do you have to be so protective of her? When Hua Jin heard this, his face turned pale. Then he retorted, Director Meng, let's talk about the facts. If you want to use the unspoken rules on my assistant, then let's talk about it openly. I can't say anything if a man and a woman are willing. But don't you think that's too disgusting to deceive her? Perhaps it was this word that enraged Meng Hao. My mother doesn't even think that you're disgusting. Who knows what kind of person your assistant is? She pretends not to know. But since she wants to be in this industry, don't she know how complicated it is? Why are you pretending to be innocent? Don't act anymore. Get out of here. When Hua Jin heard this, he was completely enraged. If it weren't for people like you who break the rules of the industry, would actors like to be used by the unspoken rules? When one entered this industry, there were too many things that were beyond one's control. There were different levels of actors and actresses, and gradually there was a foul atmosphere. It was these directors and capitalists who condoned this atmosphere that made many people willing to use the unspoken rules to get to where they were. As for those who truly had strength and principles, they were buried. Don't make it sound so nice. Aren't people like you just chasing after fame and fortune? Isn't that what you want? You're still pretending to be obedient after getting benefits? What a pompous statement. All right, that's enough. Meng Hao interrupted him impatiently. People like you are at the bottom of this industry. People like you deserve to please us. No matter how glorious you are, you'll be under us for the rest of your life. With that, the phone was hung up harshly. Hua Jin stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, holding his phone. He was so angry that he was trembling. Damn it. People like you, no matter how glorious you are, will be suppressed by us for the rest of your lives. These words were like a stab to his heart. Hua Jin clenched his fists. The old scars in his heart were ruthlessly torn open. Even the scabs and skin were badly mangled. Hua Jin? Liang Yin's weak voice suddenly came from behind. Hua Jin didn't dare to turn around and let her see him in such a sorry state. Liang Yin was just about to return the script when she heard Hua Jin arguing with someone through the door. Worried, she swiped the room card and heard Hua Jin and Meng Hao arguing. She felt especially upset when she heard that. She didn't know why, but when she looked at Hua Jin's lonely back, she actually felt an incomparable heartache. She walked over gently and held his shoulder carefully. Hua Jin, are you okay? Hua Jin shook his head and said, I'm fine. Liang Yin looked at him quietly, feeling a little upset. She remembered how Qin Zhou looked a little distressed when he talked about Hua Jin during breakfast in the morning. Actually, I don't manage artists anymore, but Hua Jin is the only one I've made an exception for. Chapter 39-48. She didn't like Hua Jin in the past because there were rumors that Hua Jin acted like a big shot and bullied newcomers and actors in the same crew. That was just his defiance. Defiance against the rules of the entertainment industry. Defiance against those who were suppressing him. Unlike many other artists, he was forced to enter the entertainment industry. Even though he floated in the big dye vat that was the entertainment industry, he still managed to maintain the innocence of a child. Liang Yi knew about his past. No wonder he reacted so violently when he found out that the director had asked her to talk about the script at night. Liang Yi, I regret it. As Hua Jin spoke, he turned around with a sullen expression. You'd better never step into this industry. You can't afford to lose. He was the victim, so why did he have to drag Liang Yin into this? There was too much darkness and unfairness in this industry to begin with. Liang Yin shouldn't have stepped into this industry. Liang Yin paused for a moment and smiled. I used to think that you were a perverse and rebellious idle boy. Actually, Hua Jin, haven't you realized that you're a very gentle person? When Hua Jin heard this, he didn't understand why she said that. Gentle? Although you always say mean things, you've always been taking care of others. Thank you for thinking so much for me. Hua Jin and Liang Yin looked at each other and smiled. Liang Yin giggled and said, moreover, if I really enter the industry, many actresses won't be able to make a living. Hua Jin couldn't help but retort, what do you mean by that? Look, someone with good acting skills and good looks like me gets paid so cheaply. Isn't it obvious that I'm stealing their jobs? When Hua Jin heard this, he couldn't help but laugh. That's right. Liang Yin couldn't help but reach out her hand and rub his face as if she was coaxing a child. Aya, why are you so cute when you laugh? Hua Jin was angry and amused at the same time. He slapped her hand away. Stop fooling around. I'm serious. Liang Yin pouted. You should smile more. Hua Jin curled his lips into a half smile and raised his hand to pinch her cheek. The next day, Liang Yin had something to do and was not in the hotel. Hua Jin was filming and coincidentally bumped into the assistant director. Speaking of which, it was rather strange. Last night, Meng Hao and Hua Jin had gotten into a huge argument over the phone. When they met in front of Director Gu, Meng Hao smiled cheekily at Hua Jin. However, Hua Jin did not give him much face and rolled his eyes at him. When Meng Hao saw this, he was furious, but he had no choice but to swallow his anger. Just as Meng Hao was about to take advantage of the time Hua Jin finished filming to have a talk with him, Qin Zhou unexpectedly came to visit. It was rare for Qin Zhou to visit. For the first time she came to visit him at work, catching Hua Jin off guard. Why are you here? Qin Zhou didn't know why he had come to visit. He just wanted to come for no reason. He did not answer Hua Jin's question directly. Instead, he sat in the waiting area like a big boss. Hua Jin immediately served the big boss tea. Big boss Qin spoke. I don't think I've come to visit you since you started filming. So, since I'm free today, I'm here to see you, lest you look like an orphan. Hua Jin was speechless. Qin Zhou suddenly thought of something. He recalled Hua Jin's reaction when he saw him and smiled. You seem to know that I already know about that matter. What matter? The matter that you've switched back. Chapter 39-49. You're such an astute person, how could you not notice that something was wrong? When Qin Zhou heard that, he felt that it made sense. What I said really came true. When I woke up in the morning, I realized that it had already been returned. Hua Jin still had some lingering fear. You can say that I borrowed your words. Then, Qin Zhou's lips suddenly curled into a sinister smile. Do you mean what you said? What do you mean? Do you mean what you said about me counts? Hua Jin did not react at first, but he nodded naturally. Yes, of course. Wait? He stared blankly with his eyes wide open. What do you mean? Qingzhou reminded him calmly. I remember that you said that if you want to change back, you want to run naked? Hua Jin was petrified. He furrowed his eyebrows and said guiltily, It's just a joke. It's just a joke, how can you take it seriously? Are you a man? Yeah. Qingzhou said disdainfully, a man's word is worth 1,000 gold, even if it's just a fart. Hua Jin controlled himself and immediately said, Since you said so, what else can I say? Let's talk about this when we're back at the hotel. What's the point of going back to the hotel? Qingzhou hinted with his eyes. Look, there are so many people here. Why don't you show off your body? Who knows, there might be reporters here and tomorrow's headlines will be yours. Hua Jin could not help but shudder. He could even predict what the news would say about him. Popular young actor Hua Jin has mental disorder, stripped naked and ran naked on set. No way. Hua Jin's stand was firm. I was just joking, do you really want me to run naked? Qingzhou said in an old-fashioned manner, Who knows, if you run naked tomorrow, Huanyu's shares will double tomorrow. Hua Jin clenched his fists and complained, What a scary capitalist. Qingzhou urged, Enough, stop talking nonsense, hurry up. No. Strip. No. Strip. Qingzhou seemed to take it seriously. He stood up all of a sudden. With his tall stature, his aura was almost 2 meters tall. Hua Jin was instantly terrified. He cupped his fists and begged for mercy, Boss, don't be like this. I can even perform a striptease for you in the hotel. Are you serious or are you joking? Do you think I'm joking with you? Hua Jin immediately moved 3 feet away from him. Stop fooling around. All right, stop messing around. Qingzhou added, I'm really not interested in your body. Hua Jin, where's your little assistant? Qingzhou returned to his seat and asked, Why haven't I seen her today? She has something to do, so she has to go home. What is it? When Hua Jin heard this, he frowned and glanced at him suspiciously. He sniffed. Seeing him sniffing like a puppy, Qingzhou said in disdain, What are you sniffing for? Adultery. The smell of love. Hua Jin winked and said, Why are you so concerned about her today? Is it strange that I'm concerned about my employee? Hua Jin said seriously, Even if she's your personal employee, it's strange for you to ask more than a second question. Qingzhou, don't tell me you're interested in her? Without waiting for Qingzhou to speak, Hua Jin justified himself. That's true. After all, we share the same bed. Strictly speaking, it's also a short-lived marriage. Chapter 3950. Yesterday, Meng Hao invited Liang Yin for an audition. After the audition, Director Gu was quite satisfied. Meng Hao. Qingzhou recognized the name. Meng Hao's table manners are notoriously ugly in this circle. Why did Liang Yin want to audition? Does she want to act? She seems to be interested in acting. Qingzhou thought about it. Since she passed the audition and Director Gu was very satisfied, what's next? Hua Jin said, Meng Hao invited her to a hotel tonight to talk about the luminous script. Luminous script. When Qingzhou heard this, his eyebrows furrowed. This word had a deep meaning in the industry. There were often directors and producers who used the excuse of talking about the script to invite new actors or celebrities who wanted to act. They would go to the hotel under the guise of talking about the script and do inappropriate things. Of course, this did not only happen to male directors. Some older artists with more experience and resources were not limited to men and women. The object of this unspoken rule was also not limited to men and women. Especially many male directors, men and women had different tastes. The sexual orientation of many directors was a mystery. Qingzhou knew that Meng Hao liked to play with women. Sometimes he would also play with some of the new young men. It was quite disgusting. Qingzhou had been in the industry for so many years and countless women had been sent to his door. It was not that he was not moved, but he felt that it was dirty. It was not that he felt that those who did not hesitate to sell their bodies for fame and fame were dirty. It was that he felt that this kind of transaction was too dirty. He did not touch it. Although walking by the river often, who would not wet their shoes? But Qingzhou did not know what it was. It was as if he was made of steel, and his determination was extremely terrifying. However, there was one thing that everyone in the industry tacitly agreed on. No one dared to touch Qingzhou's people. No matter how low their status was, as long as they were under Qingzhou, no matter how crazy they were, they would not dare to touch a hair on them. Therefore, many newcomers who signed with Huanyu dreamed of being under Qingzhou. Because if they became Qingzhou's artists, not only would the resources be explosively good, but they would also not have to go through those ugly unspoken rules. In this industry, even if they did not take the initiative to offer themselves, sometimes they could not help but be selected by the boss. They had to accompany him. If he didn't accompany them, it meant that he wasn't giving them any face. If it was light, they would withdraw their cooperation. If it was heavy, they would be banned from the internet. But Qinzhou had the confidence and ability to do so. No one dared to do anything to his artists. Even if there were some that didn't know what was good for them, they would be beaten back in a few seconds. How dare Meng Hao? I wonder who Liang Yin belongs to. Although Liang Yin was only Hua Jin's assistant on the surface, since she was Hua Jin's assistant, Liang Yin's people were also his people. Meng Hao actually dared to have such an idea. No wonder he saw Meng Hao heading towards Hua Jin's resting place when he arrived. I had a fight with Meng Hao yesterday. What is it? He scolded me for not being tactful. Hua Jin was like a primary school student complaining to his teacher. He told Qinzhou about his argument with Meng Hao last night. When Qinzhou heard this, his expression did not change, but it was obvious that he was angry. Alright, I got it. He said, I'll handle it. Just focus on your acting. When Hua Jin heard this, he nodded silently. In the afternoon, Qinzhou asked Meng Hao to meet. When Meng Hao found out that Qinzhou had summoned him, he felt a little guilty. Chapter 39:51. It would be fine if Hua Jin didn't take it to heart. But if he took it to heart and word got to Qinzhou, he would be in deep trouble. Who was Qinzhou? He was the boss of Huanyu. Although Huanyu was a branch of Xinyu Financial Group on the surface, and Mu Yaja was the main legal representative of Huanyu, in fact, the real power of Huanyu had long been in Qinzhou's hands. Mu Yaja had already handed over the real power of Huanyu to Qinzhou. If it weren't for their strong friendship, he would never have ceded such a big Huanyu to Qinzhou. This showed that Qinzhou and Mu Yaja had a good relationship. Most importantly, everyone knew that Mu Yaja's wife, Yun Shishir, was an artist under Qinzhou. Although Yun Shishir did not stop acting after giving birth to a little princess, she was no longer as active as before. She would occasionally take on high-quality female lead roles or attend some charity events. Basically, she would decline to participate in variety shows. It could be said that she had pretty much disappeared without a trace. But under Qinzhou's operation, as long as Yun Shishir acted in a TV series or movie, it would definitely be the most popular. Whether it was the ratings or the box office, they were all second to none. What a terrifying operation to create such a situation. Qinzhou was now mainly in charge of the operation of Huanyu. The only artist who was more active under him was Hua Jin. It could be said that Qinzhou's focus now was all on Hua Jin. Meng Hao was also sure that offending Hua Jin would undoubtedly offend Qinzhou indirectly. So, the next day he thought about trying to apologize to Hua Jin. In the end, in front of Director Gu, Hua Jin didn't even pay attention to him. Meng Hao was embarrassed. Director Gu also realized that something was wrong and couldn't help but ask what was going on and if he had offended Hua Jin. How could Meng Hao admit it? He was still angry. He had obviously lowered his status, but Hua Jin didn't even look at him, which made him very embarrassed. Director Gu added, "Luckily you didn't offend Hua Jin. If you had offended Hua Jin, it would be equivalent to offending Qinzhou." The consequences of offending Qinzhou were self-evident. Meng Hao couldn't sit still anymore. Therefore he thought of looking for an opportunity to have a good chat with Hua Jin and get closer to him. In the end, when she went to the waiting area, she bumped into Qinzhou. She quickly left with her tail between her legs. Not long after, he received a call from Qinzhou. On the phone, Qinzhou's tone was still calm, saying that he had something to discuss with him. Meng Hao suddenly had a bad premonition. He felt that Qinzhou's invitation to him was more like a hongmen banquet. Although Meng Hao felt guilty, he still mustered up his courage and perfunctorily replied. No matter what, since Qinzhou had asked him out, he had to go. Qinzhou was also here. The two of them met at a coffee shop near the set. As soon as Qinzhou sat down, Meng Hao's entire body tensed up. The man in front of him was clearly in his 30s, but he still looked like he was in his 20s. He was even older than Hua Jin. However, even though he looked young, his body had a dignified aura. Even though he was smiling, it still made people shudder. Meng Hao respectfully handed him a cigarette. Chapter 39:52. As Meng Hao spoke, he was about to light the cigarette. Qinzhou did not take the cigarette. Instead, he lit a cigarette, took a puff, and gently flicked it into the ashtray. He narrowed his eyes and asked, "I heard that you went for an audition with Liang Yin. Is that true?" When he heard that Qinzhou had indeed asked him out for an audition, he could not sit still any longer. "Yes." Qinzhou exhaled a puff of smoke and said casually, I also heard that you asked her to meet you at a hotel tonight for the second audition? Yes. She is not familiar with the script, so I wanted to take it a step further. Meng Hao found an excuse, but this excuse was clearly useless in front of Qin Zhou. A step further? Qin Zhou caught on to these 3 words and became interested. What step further? I heard that director Meng has some rules. I heard that the real audition is usually done in bed? Meng Hao's sitting posture became more anxious. He quickly changed the topic. This Liang Yin, could she be one of CEO Qin's people? Qin Zhou knocked on the table to remind him not to play tricks. I'm not asking you a question. You haven't answered. Meng Hao immediately laughed awkwardly. CEO Qin, what are you talking about? What do you mean by audition in bed? CEO Qin should know the rules of this industry. In our line of work, we face a lot of pressure every day when we're casting. Moreover, these women come to us one after another. In other words, Meng Hao was pushing the blame onto Liang Yin, implying that Liang Yin had come to him on her own accord. Qin Zhou was even more displeased when he heard this. What you're saying is that my men are going to send themselves to your doorstep for you to infiltrate. Meng Hao couldn't sit still anymore. Isn't that? I didn't even touch her with a finger. Meng Hao frowned and decided to be frank. Boss Qin, I figured out why you asked me to meet you this time. You're here to seek justice for Liang Yin, aren't you? Since that's what you mean, I think you're making a mountain out of a molehill. This matter hasn't even happened yet. However, after hearing what you said, I also know that from now on, as long as it's your people, even if it's just a small assistant, I won't dare to touch them. I'll give you my word, alright? He felt a little aggrieved. If he slept with this person, then he would feel a little guilty when they came knocking on his door. However, before he could even take a bite of the fat meat in front of him, Qin Zhou had already interrogated him. He couldn't help but feel a little displeased. Qin Zhou saw the change in his expression. Qin Zhou raised his eyebrows, picked up the coffee cup and took a sip. There was a long silence. Meng Hao couldn't sit still any longer. He stood up and bowed to Qin Zhou. There's still work to be done on set. I'm in a hurry to go back. Chairman Qin, please take a seat first. As he spoke, he pretended to leave. Qin Zhou, on the other hand, appeared to be neither hurried nor slow. He did not even lift his eyelids as he asked, "Did I allow you to leave? I remember when we first met, you were still a small-time producer. Now that you've been promoted to assistant director and have more experience, you're looking down on others." Chapter 3953. He had originally wanted to find an excuse to leave, but now that Qin Zhou had said that, how could he dare to leave? He didn't even know if he could walk out of this cafe. It was said that Qin Zhou's methods were ruthless. In the industry, no one dared to provoke him because he always won by surprise, making it impossible to guard against him. It wasn't that he liked to backstab people. Instead, he used his power to oppress people. Qin Zhou had a lot of power, and he knew that he had a lot of power. Hence, he used it to oppress people. He was a person who hated trouble. If he could solve it with power, he didn't want to waste his energy. Meng Hao didn't know what Qin Zhou's motive was, so he decided to lay his cards on the table. "CEO Qin, may I ask what you mean by this? Why don't you tell me directly? If I can compensate you, I will do my best to do so." Qin Zhou said slowly, "I'm just a little surprised. I didn't think that there would be someone in this industry who would dare to offend my people. That's why I find it a little unbelievable." Meng Hao quickly said, I didn't think of it at first. Now I know that I didn't know the rules. Next time, I definitely won't do it again." Qin Zhou said, "I think that since she has passed the interview, Director Gu is quite satisfied with Liang Yin's performance. Then why don't we let her join the cast directly? However, after she joins the cast, please avoid her when you see her." When Meng Hao heard this and saw that Qin Zhou actually proposed this condition, he agreed 120%. Okay. From now on, I will treat Liang Yin like a grandaunt. Don't worry, I will definitely not let anyone make things difficult for her. After she joins the cast, give her the best assistant and makeup artist, understand? Okay. Also, the plot of Ubisoft Bird will be increased. This? Meng Hao looked a little hesitant. Qin Zhou looked at his troubled expression and immediately said, "In the original novel, Ubisoft Bird was very important in the plot. In order to emphasize the role of the other female supporting character, the scriptwriter cut out many of her scenes." Meng Hao asked, "CEO Qin, have you read the script?" "Yes." Okay. Meng Hao nodded with a serious expression. "I'll get the editor to change the script when I get back." Okay. Then, Meng Hao asked cautiously, "Can I leave now?" Qin Zhou didn't say anything, but he didn't ask him to stay either. Seeing that Qin Zhou had tacitly agreed, Meng Hao immediately left with his tail between his legs. In the evening, Liang Yin received a call from Meng Hao. She thought Meng Hao was calling to harass her, so she did not pick up. Not long after, Meng Hao sent a message to say that Qin Zhou had spoken to him in the afternoon. He solemnly apologized to Liang Yin and said that he could directly arrange for her to join the set. Moreover, he had already contacted the scriptwriter to change the plot. The plot of Ubutero would become more serious. Liang Yin was shocked. She didn't expect that Meng Hao would call her to inform her that she would be joining the crew. However, she was still a little suspicious. Hence, she hurriedly called Hua Jin and told him about it. Hua Jin, on the other hand, was not surprised. He had also heard about it. It's probably because Qin Zhou talked to him today. Qin Zhou? Liang Yin was a little puzzled. Director Meng said that Qin Zhou was the one who looked for him. What happened? Chapter 3954. Liang Yin felt awkward. Why did you tell him about this? It's quite embarrassing. Why do you feel embarrassed? Hua Jin said half-jokingly, the director has taken a liking to you. This means that you are pretty and have the looks of a celebrity. Shouldn't you feel happy when you think about it? Liang Yin did not know whether to laugh or cry. She was more curious about Qin Zhou. What did he say to Director Meng today? I don't know what he said to Meng Hao, but Qin Zhou seemed to be very angry. I guess he went to reason with Meng Hao. Meng Hao was afraid of causing trouble, so he arranged for you to join the production team. To the production team, this should be an exception. Haha, I feel that Qin Zhou cares a lot about you. Don't talk nonsense. What do you mean I'm talking nonsense? You don't know that he actually came to visit me today for the first time. Hua Jin said angrily, you don't know that he rarely comes to visit me even though I've been in the production team for so long. He actually came to visit me today. Could it be that he has found his conscience? To Qin Zhou, Hua Jin should belong to the free-range type. Firstly, Hua Jin was more obedient and did not cause trouble, so he was not worried. Secondly, he had already arranged for work matters. He only needed to send the draft to his assistant's email and Hua Jin would follow the schedule. It was under such circumstances that Qin Zhou actually came to visit her. Who knew what he was thinking? Liang Yin, however, was still skeptical. Then, should I join the production team directly? Yes, you can join the production team directly. You don't have to worry about anything else. I heard that Qin Zhou even arranged an assistant for you. An assistant arranged by Meng Hao? Liang Yin was still worried. She felt that Meng Hao would not let her off so easily after being taken advantage of. Don't worry. Meng Hao won't dare to offend you. In the past, no one dared to offend Qin Zhou. Now that Qin Zhou is different from before, how dare Meng Hao? What a joke. What ability does he have? He's just a small assistant director. When Liang Yin heard this, she was a little dazed. At that time she was filming on the set. When she went in and out of the film studio, she would often see women dressed to the nines. They would either hold the assistant director's hand or the producer's hand as they walked on the streets, smiling like flowers. Even such a small assistant director was enough to make them scramble like a flock of ducks. Now, based on Hua Jin's tone, the assistant director was actually a mere person. In this circle, the difference in level was not small. But since Hua Jin said that she could directly join the crew, Liang Yin had no choice but to comply. By the way, your pay has also been set. It's the highest among the supporting roles, 100,000 yuan per episode. 100,000? I'm guessing it's because of Qin Zhou. But the production crew only dared to name a price because Huan Yu is one of the investors. Either way, let's just assume Qin Zhou is paying you. Liang Yin was a little flattered. Hua Jin said enviously, that's great. You come from such a good family. You have to know that you haven't signed a contract yet. You don't have to share your pay with anyone. I've just debuted. I can't even get 100,000 yuan per episode, let alone 100,000 yuan per episode. I just want to show my face. Liang Yin felt even more uneasy. She felt that she owed Qin Zhou a lot. Why did he treat her so well? Could it be, was he interested in her? Liang Yin quickly waved her hand when she thought of this. Chapter 3955. Just as Liang Yin's imagination was running wild, an unknown number called. Since she didn't save the number, she didn't know who was calling. She picked it up suspiciously. Qin Zhou's voice came from the other end of the line. Are you free tonight? Qin? Liang Yin recognized Qin Zhou's voice. She was so nervous that she couldn't be any more nervous. She stood up, looking a little uneasy as if her idol was really standing in front of her. Qin Zhou heard her stuttering and obviously nervous. He couldn't help but laugh. You seem a little nervous when I called? No, why are you calling me? Liang Yin held her forehead in annoyance as she asked this question. She sounded as if she didn't like him calling her. She definitely didn't mean it that way. She hoped that he wouldn't misunderstand her. Qin Zhou found her even more interesting after hearing this. She was so nervous. It seemed that what Hua Jin said about Liang Yin having a crush on him was true. Don't be nervous. I'm just asking if you're free tonight to have dinner together. Dinner? Liang Yin was so excited that she almost couldn't catch her breath. When she came back to her senses, she quickly nodded and said, "Of course I'm free. What are we eating?" However, after saying this, Liang Yin felt a little annoyed again. Why did her tone and words make it seem like she wasn't reserved at all? Would he think that she was a frivolous woman who couldn't wait to throw herself at him? Liang Yin suddenly felt that both her IQ and IQ had dropped by more than one level. They weren't even in love yet? How could she be so stupid? Could it be that the saying that a woman's IQ would drop when she was in love was true? Just as she was letting her imagination run wild, Qin Zhou's voice came clearly from the receiver. "Did you hear what I said?" Ah. Liang Yin was so lost in thought that she didn't hear what he said clearly. She immediately said, "There seemed to be a problem with the signal just now." What did you say?" "I asked you if it's convenient to pick you up now?" "It's convenient." After Liang Yin gave him the address, she thought for a moment and said, Can you get there in half an hour?" "Well, if there's no traffic jam, we should be able to get there in half an hour." When Liang Yin heard this, she immediately felt a sense of urgency. After hanging up the phone, she immediately rushed into the bathroom to wash her face, wash her hands and apply her foundation. She wasn't very good at makeup, but she knew how to do basic light makeup. However, she didn't know if it was because she was too nervous and flustered, but she seemed to have put on too much eyeshadow and too much lipstick. Just as she was about to start all over again, Qin Zhou called and said that he was already downstairs. Liang Yin didn't have time to remedy the situation. She put on her coat and hurried downstairs. When she arrived downstairs, she saw Qin Zhou's Bentley parked at the entrance of the neighborhood. He was sitting in the car, smoking a cigarette. When he saw her come downstairs, he immediately put out the cigarette, opened the door and got out of the car. The moment he saw Liang Yin, his face froze. Qin Zhou's deep gaze landed on her face. At first glance, he was attracted by her thick eyeshadow. She seemed not very good at makeup. Her eyeshadow was too thick, so her eyelids looked bloated. Chapter 3956. Qin Zhou asked, "Did you put on makeup?" When Liang Yin heard this, she became a little nervous. "What's wrong? Is it very thick?" Qin Zhou touched the tip of his nose and said, "Yeah, it's a little thick. Like a little tabby cat." Liang Yin covered her face guiltily. She didn't have a mirror with her, so she didn't know what to do. "It's cold, let's get in the car first." As Qin Zhou said this, he unlocked the car. Liang Yin lowered her head and got into the car in frustration. However, for some reason, perhaps because she was worried that she would sit too close to him, the failed makeup on her face was clearly visible. When Qin Zhou got into the car and saw that she was sitting in the back seat, he was a little surprised. "Why are you sitting in the back?" "Well," Liang Yin said guiltily, "do you want me to go up and remove my makeup? I don't really know how to put on makeup. It seems too ugly." "If you don't know how to put on makeup, why do you want to put on makeup?" Qin Zhou retorted. Hearing this, Liang Yin felt even more dejected. It looked like she really did put on makeup that was very ugly. Otherwise he wouldn't have said that. Oh no. She had wanted to put on some pretty makeup to leave a good impression on him. In the end, she hadn't expected that it would backfire. Just as she was feeling more dejected, Qin Zhou suddenly said, "I think you look good with makeup." When Liang Yin heard this, she was stunned. She was a little surprised and in disbelief. Really? Qin Zhou nodded seriously and patted the front passenger seat. He smiled and said, "Come and sit here." "Oh," she obeyed and moved to the front passenger seat. Just as she sat down, she saw Qin Zhou's hand resting on the armrest. His fair and well-proportioned fingers looked like they were carved from jade. They were extremely beautiful. They were even prettier than a woman's hand. Liang Yin couldn't help but be entranced by them. Seeing that she kept staring at his hand, Qin Zhou also looked at his hand. He turned it over and asked, "Why do you keep staring at my hand?" Liang Yin came back to her senses and looked up. When she saw him staring straight at her, she quickly turned her head and looked straight ahead. She gulped nervously, feeling unbelievably nervous. She was so nervous that her heart was thundering. "Because your hands are beautiful." "Really?" Qin Zhou seemed to be used to it. "There's no one who doesn't think my hands are pretty." Liang Yin smiled and rubbed her hands shyly. It was obvious that she didn't know how to act freely in front of him. Qingzhou opened the armrest box. Inside the armrest box were some makeup tools, cotton pads, and a makeup plate. He took them out and said to her, "Let me help you touch up your makeup." Liang Yin did not react in time and was very surprised. "Do you know how to put on makeup?" "I know a little. In the past, when I was taking care of Xingzhe, I was busy, so I would help him touch up his makeup. So, I'm used to having these things prepared." At the mention of Xingzhe, loneliness flashed across Qingzhou's eyes. Liang Yin carefully took out the unpackaged food from the armrest and looked at the mirror. In the mirror, she finally saw her face that was not properly made up. It was purple. No wonder Qingzhou had been staring at her for so long. It was really unsightly. Qingzhou said, "Turn around." Chapter 39:57. Her heart was beating faster and faster. As he was touching up her makeup, Qingzhou was very close to her. She could even feel the gentle breath coming from his lips. It was warm, but it was boiling hot. Liang Yin was so nervous that she didn't dare to speak. Even her breathing was cautious. After Qingzhou wiped away some of the puffy eyeshadow on her eyelids, he added some brown eyeshadow. It was very light, but it looked very natural. He then covered it with makeup powder. "It's done." It was done. Qingzhou handed her the makeup mirror. Liang Yin picked it up and looked at herself. Oh my god. What a godly makeup touch-up. Originally, her makeup was very stiff. She didn't want to say that it was very erotic. She didn't expect it to become so delicate after his skillful hands. "You look good." Liang Yin felt a little ashamed. Even a man looked better than her in makeup. Her hands were so bad that they were hopeless. Qingzhou smiled and said, "I think that with your talent, you don't need makeup unless it's a special occasion. You look very good without makeup." Liang Yin's face turned even redder. "What do you want to eat?" Qingzhou said, "I remember that you like Western food?" "Yeah. I know a good restaurant. I'll take you there." When Liang Yin heard this, she was puzzled and asked, Why do you want to treat me to a meal?" Qingzhou started the car and turned the steering wheel as he said, "Actually, nothing happened between us that night." Liang Yin was stunned for a few seconds. However, she quickly realized what Qingzhou was referring to. She immediately said, "You're talking about this." "It's nothing. I didn't think too much about it." It's better for the person involved to explain it personally. Liang Yin was a little disappointed. She felt that Qingzhou's words seemed to be trying his best to distance himself from her. Actually, he didn't have to explain himself. She wouldn't let her imagination run wild. His explanation made it seem like he was trying to draw a clear line between them. "I know. I won't pester you because of this." Liang Yin said this because she thought Qingzhou was worried that she would pester him because of this. Qingzhou knew what she was thinking, but he wasn't in a hurry to explain. Instead, he said calmly, "I didn't mean anything by what I said that morning. I was just testing you. Because when I first saw you when I woke up, I felt that you weren't Hua Jin." Qingzhou continued, "But I wasn't sure, so I wanted to confirm it. Sure enough, you've really switched back. This was also a good thing that was worth celebrating. So, let's treat this meal as a celebration, and also as an apology for what I did back then." Liang Yin blushed and nodded. She was extremely nervous. How could she not be nervous when her Prince Charming was sitting right beside her? The car sped along. Until the car stopped at a Western restaurant with an extremely elegant environment. Liang Yin looked up and saw a series of English letters on the signboard, but it was not an English photo. French. Qingzhou went to the front passenger seat and opened the door for her. Liang Yin got out of the car, pointed at the signboard and asked, "What kind of Western restaurant is this?" "This is French food. It's a 3-star Michelin restaurant." "What's a Michelin restaurant? Isn't it selling tires?" Qingzhou was speechless. Chapter 39:58. Indeed, there was a tire brand called Michelin that could be found everywhere. Liang Yin often saw this signboard's tires and a special cartoon character. Qingzhou pondered for a moment and said, "Actually, Michelin restaurants have another nickname." "What's the nickname?" "It's a restaurant that is troublesome to prepare and troublesome to eat." Liang Yin was dumbfounded when she heard this. So there was such a saying? Michelin dishes might take a lot of effort to prepare, but if you eat, the dish will be gone in a few seconds. Will you not be full? Coming to this restaurant is for this elegant atmosphere. But you shouldn't be hungry. Qingzhou said, "Why are you in a daze? Let's go in. I've already made a reservation." Oh, Liang Yin was about to enter when she suddenly realized that Qingzhou had stopped moving. His arm was slightly empty as he gestured to her. "Just hold my arm." Liang Yin was a little uneasy, but she still mustered up her courage and held his arm nervously. Somehow, she felt that this action was something that only couples would do. Qin Zhou took her into the restaurant, and a waiter immediately led him to the reserved booth. Michelin restaurant had an elegant environment. When they walked in, the lights were dim, but it was enough to see the layout of the restaurant and the path under their feet. The two of them walked to the booth. The waiter first pulled out a chair and gestured for Liang Yin to sit down. It was Liang Yin's first time in this restaurant. She was not used to such thoughtful service and stood there in a daze. Qin Zhou said, "Sit down." Only then did Liang Yin dare to sit down. Just as she sat down, the waiter adjusted the seat for her and walked to Qin Zhou's side to pull out a chair for him to sit down. The service was too thoughtful. There was the sense of ceremony of European royalty. The service of this Michelin restaurant prioritized the ladies. In the same booth, the ladies would be prioritized before the men. The waiter looked French. This restaurant was originally opened by French people. Everything in the restaurant, even the details, had been restored to the original taste of Michelin. The waiter unfolded the napkin and carefully placed it on her lap. However, such a complicated etiquette made her feel even more uneasy. She was afraid that she would ruin the dining ceremony of the restaurant and become a joke to others. She felt that most of the people who went in and out of the restaurant were either rich or respectable, but it was her first time stepping into such an expensive restaurant. This was even more luxurious than the Western food Hua Jin had treated her to. After laying out the napkins, the waiter served 2 appetizers. There were 2 appetizers. One of them was pointed out by Qin Zhou, black truffle puff skin soup, which was bogus classic. It was said that only VIP guests could enjoy this dish, and it was not available to outsiders. On the surface, the cup looked like it was made of crispy pastry. After poking open the golden skin, one could see the warm soup inside. Liang Yin was suddenly in a dilemma. The dishes were so exquisite that she didn't know how to eat them. Previously, when he went to the Western restaurant, he still knew how to cut the steak. So, should he just drink the crispy skin soup or? Liang Yin looked at Qin Zhou, asking for advice. Chapter 39:59. She took a bite and the fragrance lingered in her mouth. Liang Yin followed Qin Zhou's example. She soaked the pastry in the soup and took a bite. It was delicious. The appetizer was Hungarian cheese, which was also delicious. Just like that, she finished all the appetizers in no time. The waiter was standing at the side. When he saw Qin Zhou raise his hand, he immediately walked over and took away all the plates. However, when he saw Liang Yin eating the CD, he was surprised. Qin Zhou took a look and saw that Liang Yin was a little confused. He immediately explained, "Almost no one eats all the appetizers here. Because it's delicious. It's okay. It's nothing. It's just that most people are picky. Moreover, they're afraid that if they eat too much appetizers, they won't be able to eat the main course." Isn't this the main course? The main course hasn't been served yet. Usually, one dish is the only dish on the table. When the appetizers are taken away, the next dish will be served. I see, she had learned something new. Liang Yin smiled and said, "It's delicious. If you didn't treat me, I wouldn't have known that there was such delicious Western food. This Michelin restaurant is considered authentic. The taste is quite good." Qin Zhou's taste was also more picky. The restaurant that he chose would definitely not be bad. Then the main course was served one after another. The music in the restaurant was soothing and gradually calmed Liang Yin's nervous mood. Parmesan soufflé, Bayern boiled eggs. When the burgundy snail was served, Liang Yin's face gradually showed a trace of embarrassment. "This is snail, burgundy snail. It's delicious." Snail? Can snails be eaten? Snails are cultivated artificially. Their meat is very tender. When Liang Yin saw the snail, the image of a snail with 2 antennae slowly wriggling on the ground on a rainy day appeared in her mind. It was sticky and she could even see mucus. It felt difficult to eat. Liang Yin was a little hesitant. Qin Zhou knew that she didn't dare to eat it. Those who weren't used to French food might flinch at the sight of snails. Actually, close your eyes and don't care what ingredients it's made of. Just try it. Perhaps because of Qin Zhou's encouragement, Liang Yin did not want to disappoint him. So she closed her eyes and took a bite. If he forced himself to forget that it was a snail, the fat and tender texture and the sweet and fragrant juice were indeed delicious. However, when he thought about the appearance of the snail, he still found it hard to swallow. However, Liang Yin obviously gave him face and swallowed it. However, the expression on his face when he swallowed the pill was clearly a little conflicted. Qin Zhou couldn't help but laugh. After all, to her, eating snails was no different from eating earthworms. Is it good? Not bad, but if you're not used to it, just put it aside. It's fine. It's a waste not to eat. Liang Yin closed her eyes again and took another bite. She had even eaten silkworm pupae before, so what was there to be afraid of snails? It was just a mouthful of protein. After temporarily ignoring the snail, Liang Yin no longer held any grudges. She ate the 3 snails and wiped the corners of her mouth with a napkin. Actually, if you ignore the fact that it's a snail, this dish is quite delicious. Qin Zhou pursed his lips and smiled. He raised his wine glass. Cheers. Liang Yin also raised her wine glass. Ding. The glasses clinked. Chapter 3960. Liang Yin was a little afraid of getting drunk. She didn't know how she would behave when she was drunk and whether she would make a fool of herself. So she asked, "Will I get drunk?" That depends on your alcohol tolerance. However, no matter how bad your alcohol tolerance is, at least you won't get drunk after drinking this glass. Qin Zhou paused and said half-jokingly, "But if you can't drink, don't force yourself. I don't accept scams." Liang Yin pursed her lips and smiled. She suddenly felt that it was very comfortable to get along with humorous men like Qin Zhou. It was no wonder that people said that when they were young, they liked to chase after young, fresh meat because they were handsome and had a youthful aura. However, most women still ended up with mature and steady men. Qin Zhou was a typical mature man. At this moment, the lights in the booth suddenly dimmed. Liang Yin was shocked. She thought that there was a power outage. But if there was a power outage, the lights wouldn't have dimmed so gradually. Qin Zhou saw Liang Yin's surprised expression and immediately said, "This is a special program for this restaurant." Special program? While Liang Yin was still curious, she saw the holographic projection lights above her head emit a glassy color that wasn't dazzling. Then this charming and resplendent light gently fell on the white tablecloth. Such a big table now became a natural projection screen. The entire tablecloth was rendered into the Milky Way by the lights. It was too beautiful. It was so beautiful that it was suffocating. Liang Yin sucked in a breath of cold air. She didn't expect that the white tablecloth, which she thought looked ordinary when she sat down, would be so ordinary. She didn't expect that a holographic image would give her the feeling of being in a dazzling galaxy. It's so beautiful. Qin Zhou smiled and looked at Liang Yin. Liang Yin looked at the resplendent lights in a daze. Along with the music, all kinds of beautiful effects were created. "Can I take a picture?" Of course. After getting Qin Zhou's approval, Liang Yin quickly took out her phone, took a picture and uploaded it to her WeChat moments. She often used WeChat, but she didn't have many friends on it. Hua Jin was also there. Not long after Liang Yin uploaded the post to her WeChat moments, Hua Jin saw it. He went to look for Qin Zhou furiously and sent him an angry emoji. "Qin Zhou, you guys had a secret meeting behind my back and even went to eat a Michelin 3-star restaurant. Why didn't you bring me along?" Qin Zhou took out his phone and saw that it was a message from Hua Jin. He glanced at it and threw it aside, ignoring it. Hua Jin went to harass Liang Yin again. "Okay, you guys went to have fun behind my back and left me alone in the hotel." Liang Yin replied with a snickering emoji. "Hee, I won't bring you. Hua Jin exploded in anger and sent an aggrieved kitten emoji. In the blink of an eye, tears flowed like a river. "If there's good food next time, I won't bring you guys along." Liang Yin smiled and replied with a tongue-out emoji. Then she ignored Hua Jin. Qin Zhou saw that she was holding her phone and guessed that it was a message from Hua Jin. He asked, "Hua Jin went to harass you?" "Yeah, he said that we didn't bring him to Michelin and he was angry." Qin Zhou snorted. "Did I not bring him here to eat enough? He must be sick of it. Do you guys come here often to eat?" Chapter 3961. Liang Yin lifted the wine glass and took a sip of champagne. Perhaps it was because of the small amount of alcohol, but her face turned red all of a sudden. On the way back, Qin Zhou had been drinking, so he called the chauffeur to help Liang Yin into the car. She was obviously a little drunk and a little groggy, but she wasn't exactly drunk. She only felt that Qin Zhou's voice was a little ethereal and distant. The heater was turned on in the car, so it was very warm. Liang Yin leaned against the seat and felt her head suddenly become heavy and groggy. Seeing that her head was swaying, Qin Zhou simply reached out his arm and put it around her shoulders so that she could lean on his shoulder. For some reason at that moment, Liang Yin suddenly became clear-headed. Even though she had indeed drunk some wine earlier and felt a little tipsy, Qin Zhou's action had undoubtedly startled her awake. Leaning on his shoulder, she was so stiff that her whole body was tense. Liang Yin mustered up her courage and opened her eyes a little to sneak a peek above her head. Qin Zhou looked out the window quietly. His chiseled side profile was extremely exquisite, like a work of art carved by the gods. With such good looks he could definitely debut as an idol. At that moment, Liang Yin clearly understood that she seemed to be in love. No one had ever treated her so well. Whether it was her father or her mother, she had been like a weed since she was young. She felt like she had been exiled. She wasn't a sentimental person, but occasionally she would feel envious and jealous when she saw other children coming home from school with their parents. When she came home alone, the house was empty. When she was young, she could only go to her grandparents' house to eat, or cook instant noodles for herself. She didn't know how it felt to be doted on. It wasn't because Qin Zhou was so good to her that she liked him. It was because he gave her an indescribable feeling. She would rather recognize this feeling as a sense of belonging. I don't know how many times you've been giggling since this morning. On the set, Liang Yin was waiting for the opportunity to try on her makeup. When Hua Jin came back from filming, he saw her hugging his hot water bottle and giggling like no one else was around. He walked over grumpily and snatched the hot water bottle from her arms. He glanced at her and said, "How much longer are you going to giggle like that?" Liang Yin snapped back to her senses. She glanced at him and quickly stopped giggling. "Have you passed?" "Yes." "Wait for the next one." Hua Jin sat down and looked at her expression suspiciously. Even though she wasn't wearing makeup or blush, her red cheeks looked like they had been dyed with rouge. He couldn't help but feel suspicious. "What did you guys do yesterday?" Liang Yin said, "Nothing. I saw you giggling like a fool." Hua Jin smiled wickedly. "Did you make any progress yesterday? What are you thinking? What else did you do after dinner yesterday?" "We didn't do anything. After dinner he sent me home and then left." Hua Jin furrowed his brows. He hated Qin Zhou for being so disappointing. He had thought that Qin Zhou had taken a liking to her and wanted to make a move on her. Chapter 3962. At last night's dinner, Hua Jin had thought that Qin Zhou wanted to serve meat directly. He didn't expect that Qin Zhou had become a vegetarian. Boring humph. When Liang Yin heard that, she could guess what Hua Jin was thinking. She snorted coldly. "Do you think Qin Zhou is like you? He's a gentleman, not what you think." "He's a gentleman? Do you want me to talk to you about his past relationships?" Hua Jin deliberately baited her. As expected, Liang Yin took the bait and became excited all of a sudden. "Past relationships? Tell me about it." "Humph, if you want to know, I won't say." Liang Yin hated people who kept people in suspense and didn't satisfy their curiosity. Was there a need to ask? It was obvious that he was doing it on purpose. Since Hua Jin didn't say anything on purpose, Liang Yin also resisted the urge to ask. Firstly, she didn't want Hua Jin to get what he wanted. Secondly, it didn't seem appropriate to ask about his past. However, Liang Yin started to ask Hua Jin about other things. "Do you know what Qin Zhou likes to eat?" For example, what kind of dishes he likes to eat. Also, what kind of fruits and flowers he likes." Hua Jin said casually, "He's a capitalist. He likes money the most. Money can buy everything you say." Liang Yin was speechless. She was speechless. Hua Jin frowned slightly. "Why, you want to make soup and cook for him?" I heard that when he goes to work he either orders takeout or eats from the cafeteria. The food in the cafeteria must be terrible, right?" If I remember correctly, when Huanyu was still in charge of CEO Mu, the chefs in the cafeteria at Huanyu's headquarters were all 5-star chefs. This tradition hasn't been broken yet. In other words, he was saying that a 5-star chef would surely be able to cook better food than him. Liang Yin was rebuffed one after another. She pursed her lips, feeling wronged. "I'll knit a scarf for him." Knitting a scarf? Hua Jin narrowed his eyes and teased, "Can't you be more mature and knit something difficult?" "I know how to knit scarves and scarves." "Really? Why would I lie to you?" Hua Jin said confidently, "Isn't a scarf just a matter of 2 needles tying a row of knots, then threading, hooking, and picking?" Liang Yin was hit hard again. Her whole person was like a wilted eggplant. She hung her head and looked very depressed. "But you can buy him a gift." "I don't know what gift to give. I have a feeling that Qin Zhou lacks nothing." Hua Jin winked at her. "Do you know what Qin Zhou likes?" "What?" "Men are just like women who like lipstick, bags, and jewelry. Men also have things that they like." "What?" "Qin Zhou has a hobby of collecting things. I remember his walk-in closet has a row of drawers filled with all kinds of beautiful cufflinks. In fact, most of them are out of print." "Cufflinks?" Liang Yin felt that it was not a problem. "These cufflinks shouldn't be expensive, right?" Those that are not expensive usually cost a few thousand yuan. Those that are expensive, such as those with diamonds or gems, cost a few 100,000 yuan. Those that are out of print cost a few million yuan. There are even some that are hard to estimate. Liang Yin was dumbfounded when she heard this. A few million yuan? She remembered that cufflinks were the kind that replaced the original cufflinks and were nailed to the cuffs. Why? Someone spent a few million yuan just to buy a pair of cufflinks. How extravagant. Chapter 3963. I remember when I accompanied Qin Zhou to the Fashion Week last year, the brand manager of Cartier gave him a pair of cufflinks worth $1 million. There are also Bulgari and Hermes. Qin Zhou prefers Bulgari and Versace. These two brands are the most common in the cufflinks at home. Liang Yin was already dizzy from listening to them. She felt that the $1 million she held tightly was not worth mentioning in front of these two brands. Evil capitalists. Wasn't the gap between the rich and the poor a little too big? After trying on her makeup, Liang Yin hailed a cab and went to the department store. Standing at the Bulgari counter, she was still dizzy. Should she buy it? If she did, what reason should she give to Qin Zhou? Liang Yin thought hard and finally came up with a reason. Just say that I'm thanking him for treating me to a Michelin restaurant. Okay. It's decided then. She put her hand in her pocket and held the bank card tightly. Because she had been holding it, the cold bank card felt warm. Liang Yin walked into the Bulgari counter, trembling with fear. The reason why she was trembling with fear was that Bulgari's magnificent facade was a little dazzling. Even the staff at the counter were exquisitely dressed and good-looking. Let's walk around first. It was better to take a look at the price. Otherwise, if she asked, it would be hundreds of thousands or millions. What should she do if she couldn't afford it? That would be awkward. She felt that this kind of store was not a place for her. Liang Yin strolled around the counter as if there was no one else around. The staff in charge of the store sized her up and didn't pay much attention to her. No one came forward to serve Liang Yin. Those who worked in such a counter were all elites. Which one of them didn't have extremely sharp eyesight? Just by looking at her from head to toe, they could tell what brand she was wearing. Liang Yin was wearing clothes bought online. At most, they cost a few $100s. Which of the people who came in and out of these counters wasn't a rich lady wearing a mink coat or a successful man accompanied by a beautiful woman? She was probably a poor person who saw Bulgari and came to shop out of curiosity. Seriously. Why would poor people come to visit Bulgari? However, after seeing that no one was there to serve her and that she had been walking around alone for a long time without any intention of leaving, the shop assistants gathered together and looked at her with disgust. Who is going to chase her away? I saw that she had been strolling around inside for so long, but she didn't seem to have any intention of leaving. Don't tell me he's a thief trying to steal from the counter? She doesn't look like it. She's a girl. Why else would she shop in the counter for so long? Looking at her poor appearance, how could she possibly be here to buy things? How can a commoner like him afford the things here? She doesn't look like a thief, does she? Who knows? Is the word, thief, written on the thief's face? The store manager became impatient and said, there are only so many displays in the counter. Just go and see what's missing. A few of the shop assistants immediately nodded and pretended to be on patrol. They pretended as if nothing had happened and looked at the displays in the counter to see what was missing. Another shop assistant stepped forward and asked, hello, Mississippi? You've been shopping here for a long time. What can I do for you? Chapter 3964. She had just walked around. Although some of the designs were indeed cheap, they still cost tens of thousands. Moreover, they were not considered good-looking. Even a layman like her felt that they were not good-looking, let alone Qin Zhou. Most of the good-looking designs cost 5 or 6 figures. Some of them did not have a price tag, so she did not dare to ask. She was afraid that she would not be able to afford them and would be looked down upon. Actually, Liang Yin was very sensitive. From the moment she walked into the counter, she could sense that the people at the counter were not very friendly towards her. For example, before entering this counter, she saw a woman dressed like a noblewoman being bowed and sent away by the shop assistant. Her smile was as flattering as it could be. When she turned around and saw her entering the counter, the heat on her face quickly cooled down, and her expression changed faster than flipping through a book. Liang Yin felt that she was being looked down upon, so she simply looked around herself and did not bother others. Now that the staff saw her, she took the initiative to ask. However, her tone was neither cold nor warm, and there was no intention of welcoming her. Instead, it sounded like she was driving her away. Liang Yin did not feel good when she heard this. However, on second thought, no matter how bad it was, she still had a lot of money on her. After all, Hua Jin had given her $1 million. This $1 million could not possibly not be enough to buy a pair of cufflinks here. Thinking of this, she became self-righteous again. I want to buy a pair of cufflinks. Seeing that she had spoken, the staff was a little surprised. She had thought that since she had obviously come forward to drive her away, she would ask for a snub and quickly leave. She did not expect her to say that she wanted to buy cufflinks. Who do you want to buy it for? Liang Yin pondered for a moment and said, I'm buying it for my boyfriend. I see. The staff gave a fake smile and suddenly reminded her dryly, our things here are not cheap. A pair of cufflinks would cost at least 5 figures. Are you sure you want to buy it? She asked so tactfully because she wanted to indirectly remind her that the things here were expensive and not cheap. She had to think carefully. What if she eagerly introduced them and the customer thought that they were expensive and did not want to buy it? Then wouldn't she be wasting her breath? It was not that they were too snobbish. Indeed, sometimes in order to welcome a customer, the customer only came to the counter to take a look. It was nothing more than wanting to see the true face of the luxury goods. In fact, they did not really want to buy it. However, he still had to entertain the customers who entered the store. Often, this kind of customer would pretend to walk around, and when the shop assistant introduced them one by one, it was obvious that they couldn't afford it. They would even pompously say, it's not to my liking, and leave. As for the really good customers, they were snatched away by other colleagues. On the surface, these counter clerks got along well with each other, but in fact, all of them were very clear-headed and astute. Why would they go against their own performance? Therefore, for such customers, the staff would push all the blame to their new colleagues. When Liang Yin heard what she said, she was a little displeased. If you can't afford it, why are you here? On the surface, the shop assistant was smiling, but in her heart, she was cursing. She had heard such words countless times. Often, there would be some old ladies dressed in gaudy clothes, pretending to be rich ladies who would come to the counter to shop, but in the end, they would not buy anything. Okay, then take a look and see if there are any designs that you like. Liang Yin looked again and felt that there were no designs that looked particularly good in the counter. Are all the designs here? Chapter 3965. Of course not. These are the more affordable designs in our store. The really expensive ones have been kept away because many customers touch them with their hands. If the sweat on their hands gets on those gems and diamonds, it will affect their luster. Oh, Liang Yin's eyes darkened when she heard this. The designs on the outside looked so mediocre, but the prices were already in the tens of thousands. Wouldn't the expensive ones cost hundreds of thousands? Liang Yin was a little conflicted. She felt that her wallet was about to be emptied after such a long time. She didn't feel good about it. Forget it. Let's take a look first. It's free to look. These designs don't look good. Show me some nicer ones. The shop assistant muttered, but she couldn't refuse. She said, wait for me here. With that, the shop assistant went back to the safe. Just then, another shop assistant walked over looking a little nervous. Did you see the sapphire ring on display in cabinet A? What's wrong? The shop assistant also became alert. Don't tell me, that woman is really a thief? The sapphire ring is gone. The two of them walked to cabinet A and indeed the sapphire ring on display was gone. The two of them were dumbfounded. It can't be. I was watching her just now. She passed by cabinet A but I didn't see her touch it. What do you know? Some thieves are so good at stealing that they can steal things without anyone noticing. Don't let her go. Ask her clearly and I'll ask the store manager. I'm afraid she's been released. Okay. The shop assistant turned back and walked to Liang Yin. Seeing that she had returned empty-handed, Liang Yin was a little puzzled. Didn't you go to get your cufflinks? The safe isn't open. Look at the others. When Liang Yin heard this, she thought that the shop assistant thought that she couldn't afford it and was patronizing her. She was angry and said angrily, forget it. I'm not buying any more. She would go to the other counters to take a look. Didn't Qingzhou like Versace's brand too? When she passed by, she saw the Versace brand. On the way here, she went online to find out more about the brand's logo. Seeing that Liang Yin was about to leave, the shop assistant stopped her. You cannot leave. The shop assistant was so excited that she grabbed Liang Yin's wrist. Liang Yin struggled for a moment, and her face turned ugly. What are you doing? Why aren't you letting him go? Didn't you say you wanted to buy cufflinks for your boyfriend? That's right. But you don't show me the good stuff. The designs outside don't look good. Don't go yet. That was all the shop assistant said. She looked around and looked at her colleagues. What do you mean? After a while, the store manager and his colleagues hurried over, looking flustered. The sapphire ring is gone. He's really gone? When the shop assistant heard this, she was furious and pushed Liang Yin fiercely. Take out the ring. Liang Yin was confused. After being pushed, she staggered back a few steps and almost fell. She was furious. What are you doing? A sapphire ring is missing from our counter. Did you steal it? The shop assistant asked angrily. Liang Yin laughed. So she was being treated as a thief. Chapter 3966. However, the shop assistant said righteously, from the beginning until now, there was no one else in the counter other than you. If you didn't steal it, who else could it be? Liang Yin was furious. In her mind, thieves were like rats crossing the street. Anyone would be angry if they were treated as a thief for no reason. She was so angry that she was trembling all over, but she tried her best to maintain her composure. She asked calmly, then do you have evidence? If you don't, you're framing me? We'll know once we search you. The shop assistant said. Search me? When Liang Yin heard this, she was so angry that she laughed. Do you know the law? What right do you have to search me? You're not the police. What right do you have to search me? When she said this, the shop assistant thought that she was guilty. Are you feeling guilty? Are you scared out of your wits when you heard that we're going to search you? What's there to be scared of? I didn't steal it, but you don't have the right to search me. Also, don't tell me you have surveillance cameras. You can just check the surveillance footage. The surveillance footage belongs to the mall. Without the police's permission, we don't have the right to check it. After a pause, the shop assistant said, I advise you to take out the things you stole quickly. Otherwise, we'll call the police. When the police come and prove that you've stolen, you'll have a criminal record. Do you understand? Liang Yin was so angry that she was trembling all over. A sense of humiliation welled up in her. She said firmly, anyway, I didn't take it, so you don't have the right to detain me. You can call the police. With that, she was about to leave. Seeing that she was about to leave, the shop assistant was even more certain that she had a guilty conscience. She wanted to leave quickly and move the stolen goods elsewhere, so she immediately stopped her. There's a thief. One of the shop assistants shouted. The shop assistants at the other counters happened to be idle. When they heard this, they immediately gathered around. Soon, the Bulgari counter was filled with people. Some of them were passers-by. Some of them were the shop assistants at the other counters. When they heard that someone had stolen something, they immediately rushed over to watch the commotion. In an instant, Liang Yin looked around. Many people were glaring at her and pointing at her. Their faces were full of disgust, which made her self-esteem suffer a huge blow. Tears welled up in her eyes. She was a very strong-willed person and never shed tears easily. However, she felt extremely humiliated to be treated as a thief and in front of so many people. However, even though she felt angry and humiliated, she still straightened her back and wiped away her tears. She said coldly, please call the police now. I didn't do anything wrong, so I'm not afraid of ghosts knocking on my door. It's the same even if the police come. Fine. You're so stubborn. Since you said you want to call the police and aren't afraid of embarrassing yourself, then what are we afraid of? Anyway, if something is missing, they will definitely report it to the police. Just wait for your record. The shop assistant made a phone call the police? The shop assistants looked at each other with impatience written all over their faces. If he stole it, so be it. Can't he just take it out? He had already been caught. What else did he want? Chapter 3967. The store manager looked like she was very easy to talk to. The other store assistants also stepped forward to speak. Previously, there was a thief who came to our store to steal jewelry. We caught him red-handed and called the police. Because the amount involved was huge, he was sentenced to 7 years. Bulgari's items are not cheap. The store manager hurriedly said, this sapphire ring is worth more than 900,000. The amount involved is huge, so you have to think carefully. Liang Yin was fearless. I didn't take it. You can call the police. If it's verified that you're slandering us, I'll go through legal proceedings and sue you for violating my rights. The store assistant who received her heard this and spoke without thinking. Ha! Who are you trying to scare? We're framing you. Don't bluff too much. A store assistant from the Chanel store next door walked over and tugged at her sleeve. She doesn't look guilty at all. Could it be that you're framing her? Not guilty? That's all an act. Didn't you see just now? If we hadn't stopped her, she would have left. If she's not guilty, then what is she? Also, you didn't see how she trembled when she heard that we were going to do a body search. If she's not guilty, then what is she? After a while, the police arrived. Usually, there would be police stationed next to the shopping mall. 5 minutes after the police call, the police would rush over. Seeing that the police had arrived, The store assistant immediately went up to them and gave them a brief account of the situation. She stole a sapphire ring from our store. Liang Yin was furious. I didn't. Two police officers came. One was in charge of recording and the other was in charge of questioning. The police officers walked over and pointed the camera at her. The other one questioned, they said you stole something? Are you going to say that you're going to search me? The police officer smiled and was considered to be more amiable. We won't. We don't have a search warrant, so we don't have the right to do a body search. Liang Yin pursed her lips when she heard this. Thank you. The store assistants couldn't sit still when they heard this. Officer, she's the only one in the store since just now. There's no one else. She must have stolen it. Before she came, I still saw the sapphire ring. When I looked at it just now, it's gone. Don't the police have the right to check the surveillance footage? Liang Yin paused and asked, there must be surveillance cameras in this counter, right? Why don't we just take a look at it? The shop assistant was a little anxious. You just don't want to let us search you because you're guilty. Liang Yin said loudly, get your facts straight. It's not that I'm guilty. It's just that you don't have the right to do so. All right. Stop arguing. Seeing that they were arguing, the police officer snorted and said to the shop assistant, have you checked properly? Could it have been put away or something? Most people wouldn't dare to touch such an expensive item. We've checked, but there's nothing. All right, let's go to the surveillance room and retrieve the footage. The shop assistants and the store manager had no objections. Hence, the police officers brought the store manager and Liang Yin to the mall surveillance room. When they entered the surveillance room, they showed their police badges, and the police officers instructed the security guards to retrieve the surveillance footage of the Bulgari counter. They adjusted the footage to the moment after Liang Yin entered the counter and watched the footage frame by frame. Chapter 3968. Because she was standing sideways, all that could be seen was her raising her hand. Then she glanced at the price tag and quickly put it down, returning the ring to its original position. However, because of the angle, it was not clear whether she had put it back or not. Seeing this, the store manager started to make a big fuss about it. So you did touch this ring. Liang Yin was naturally honest. I saw it because I thought it was pretty, but when I saw the price tag I thought it was too expensive. I was afraid that I would damage it, so I put it back. The store manager was obviously convinced that she had stolen something. From this angle, who knows if you really put it back or not? We only saw you pick it up, but we didn't see you put it back. Look, the store manager pointed at the screen and said, you're obviously bluffing. Actually, you didn't put it back, did you? Actually, the item is still on you. Liang Yin was furious. How would I know where the surveillance cameras are? Maybe you've overstepped the mark? Don't be unreasonable. Aren't you obviously trying to search me? Liang Yin was obviously exasperated as well. Let me tell you, if you want to search me, I won't give it to you. The store manager was furious when he heard this. He pointed at her and complained to the police officer, Officer, take a look, take a good look. What's with her attitude? She's not cooperating with the investigation at all. Liang Yin retorted, Am I a criminal? Why should I cooperate with your investigation? The police officer chided, Both of you stop arguing. Calm down. This matter couldn't be concluded based on just a few actions. Aren't you pushing it a little too far if you want to convict her like this? As he spoke, the police officer turned around and advised Liang Yin, Miss, I'm sure you've seen the video. Indeed, from this angle, we couldn't have seen you put the item back in its original position. Of course, we don't have the right to search you, but if you're willing to cooperate with us, you can prove that you're innocent. What's wrong with that? Let us check your belongings. If you really don't have anything, you just have to cooperate with us to make a statement and you can go home. Nothing will happen. Liang Yin insisted, I'm only following the rules. Unless you have a search warrant, I promise to cooperate with you. If not, no one has the right. This is also my right. You have no right to violate it. The store manager panicked. Stop putting on an act. Don't you know whether you took it or not? Quickly take it out. Although this sapphire ring wasn't the most expensive one in the store, it was still worth a few 100,000 yuan. If it disappeared for no reason, the store manager would also be held responsible, and he would lose his golden rice bowl. Of course she was anxious. She might even have to pay for it. How could she afford something that cost hundreds of thousands? As a result, his emotions began to rise. Liang Yin's attitude was still firm. Give up. Do you think I'm the kind of person who would humiliate myself? I'm clearly innocent, so why should I be searched? Only criminals are searched, right? The store manager also clamored, If you're innocent, then why do you look so guilty? Just take out your belongings for us to see. If you really don't have anything, who would be willing to waste time on you? Chapter 3969. Liang Yin was furious. She pursed her lips. She wanted to cry, but she held it in and swallowed her grievances. If she were to show weakness in front of such a person, that would be the greatest insult to her. The two of them continued to waste time. The police were in charge of looking at the surveillance footage. After looking at it, other than the one suspicious point, they couldn't find any problems. They were at their wits' end. Could it have fallen into a corner? The policeman proposed such an idea. The store manager immediately said, "That's impossible. There can't be a blind spot." Liang Yin retorted, "Who knows if you stole it?" The store manager retorted angrily, "Watch your mouth." Liang Yin ignored her and sat down on the chair with her back facing the store manager. She didn't say a word. No matter how the store manager tried to provoke and humiliate her, she tried her best to look indifferent. Soon the regional manager rushed over. When he heard that a ring was missing, he appeared anxious and reprimanded the store manager. "Why is a ring missing all of a sudden? What's going on?" The store manager pursed her lips and gestured at Liang Yin, who was sitting at the table. She said sarcastically, "I suspect that she stole it." The regional manager glanced at Liang Yin and threw a question at the store manager. "Do you have any evidence?" No, that's bullshit. The regional manager said harshly, "If this ring is gone, you can pack your bags and get lost. I can't protect you anymore." The store manager bit her lip and watched the regional manager leave. When she looked at Liang Yin again, her eyes were filled with resentment. "It's all your fault." Without any warning, she suddenly pounced on Liang Yin and gave her 2 tight slaps on the face without any explanation. "You must have stolen it." Liang Yin wasn't one to be taken advantage of. Not to be outdone, she retaliated with a slap. "Don't be unreasonable." The store manager was obviously worried that she would lose her job. She grabbed her clothes and wanted to force her to hand over the ring. "You're not willing to let us search it because you have a guilty conscience. You're not willing, right? This is not up to you." As he spoke, he reached out to touch her pocket. The two of them started to wrestle. However, the store manager was obviously anxious. After a while, Liang Yin was at a disadvantage and was pushed to the ground. Her hair was messy and she was in a sorry state. Covering her burning face, she still stubbornly refused to shed a single tear. The police hurriedly came up to stop them and finally separated the two of them. The store manager shouted, "Officers, she's the thief. Take her back to the police station for investigation. Search her body. I guarantee you'll find something." Liang Yin's eyes were red as she glared at her fiercely. Once again she explained hoarsely, "I didn't." After saying that, he was so angry that his whole body trembled. At this moment his phone suddenly rang. Liang Yin realized that the voice came from her bag. She took out her phone and saw the name, Qin Zhou. At that moment, for some reason, tears fell helplessly from her eyes. "Cry. You're still crying. What right do you have to cry?" Liang Yin ignored her. She didn't want to pick up Qin Zhou's call. After all, she was in such a sorry state and she didn't want him to see her in such a sorry state. However, Qin Zhou called again. Liang Yin guessed that something must have happened, so she picked up the call. Chapter 3970. Liang Yin held her breath but didn't say anything. However, Qin Zhou sensed that something was amiss from her heavy breathing. "What's wrong? Are you crying?" Liang Yin knew that she couldn't hide it any longer. She covered her mouth and choked out, "I'm fine." Qin Zhou was sure that she was crying. He knew that she had been wronged. His tone wasn't anxious as he asked gently, "What happened? Tell me." Liang Yin didn't want to talk about it. However, Qin Zhou was very capable. His tone was gentle and extremely patient. Soon, Liang Yin's psychological defenses were completely broken. I didn't steal anything," she choked out. "I really didn't. Why don't you believe me?" Qin Zhou finally felt a little nervous. "Where are you? I'll come over right away." Seeing that she was stammering, the store manager didn't think twice before snatching her cell phone and speaking into the microphone. "Hello, I'm the store manager of the Bulgari counter. May I know how you are related to her?" Liang Yin panicked and reached out to snatch her cell phone back. However, the next second, she heard the store manager's suspicious tone. "Are you her boyfriend?" Boom, it was as if something had exploded in her head. She widened her eyes in shock. "Qin Zhou, what did he say over the phone? He claimed to be her boyfriend." She found it hard to believe. "In any case, come over here. Your girlfriend is suspected of stealing jewelry and is being detained by the police." The store manager told him the address. 20 minutes later, Qinzhou arrived very quickly. He had been driving past the department store and had wanted to ask Hua Jin and Liang Yin out for dinner to discuss the contract signing. He had made a call, but when he heard that something had happened, he immediately turned around and rushed over. Qinzhou pushed open the office door and saw the layout of the room. The police stood beside the surveillance camera while the store owner crossed his arms in front of his chest, looking very arrogant. Meanwhile, Liang Yin was slumped on a chair. Her messy hair covered half of her face and her expression couldn't be seen clearly. However, she was curled up and looked very lonely, like a frightened rabbit. When the store manager saw Qinzhou, he was shocked. Qinzhou was wearing a suit. Anyone with a discerning eye could tell at a glance that he was an elite. He was handsome, tall, and had an inviolable aura. For some reason, his appearance made the store manager feel a little guilty. Was this her boyfriend? He seemed to be a wealthy and respectable person. With such a boyfriend, the suspicion of stealing was not high. However, there were also rich people who stole things. Perhaps this woman had some special fetishes. Thinking of this, she forced herself to calm down. Qinzhou didn't even look at the others. He walked straight to Liang Yin and gently placed his hand on her shoulder. Liang Yin's shoulders trembled slightly. She finally raised her head and looked at Qinzhou. Tears welled up in her eyes, but they refused to fall. She didn't dare to look at him, afraid that he would see her in such a sorry state. Qinzhou raised his head and finally glanced at the others. He snorted coldly and said, "Can anyone explain this to me?" Just as the police were about to say something, the store manager beat them to it and explained the ins and outs of the matter clearly. When Qinzhou heard this, he sneered, obviously disdainful. Chapter 3971. The store manager was speechless. "Very well," Qinzhou said politely, "get your manager here." "Our manager?" The store manager said, "Chase our regional manager away." "I didn't mean the regional manager." Qinzhou said again, "Get your general manager here." The store manager said tactfully, "We don't have the authority." Qinzhou smirked. "Oh, is that so?" He sent a text message. After about 10 minutes, the general manager of the mall rushed over. I was wondering who it was." "So it's CEO Qin. What can I do for you, Boss Qin, for?" The store manager and the police officer were completely dumbfounded. Especially the store manager, his mouth was so big that it could fit an entire egg. In the past, the big shots who were high and mighty in front of them had to bow and scrape in front of this man? Who exactly was this man? Qinzhou was a man of few words. He only said, "My girlfriend was arrested as a thief when she was shopping in your mall. Now your store manager wants to do a body search. What do you think?" When the manager heard this, his face turned a little pale. He turned around and questioned the store manager, "What's going on?" The store manager said submissively, "I suspect that she stole something and hid it on her body. I want to check her." "She stole something?" The manager was dumbfounded. "Who is she?" "She works for CEO Qin. Why would she need to steal?" "You must be kidding me." But after she touched the sapphire ring, it disappeared without a trace. "It's normal for me to be suspicious." The store manager tried his best to explain himself. When Qinzhou heard this, he found it interesting. "What a normal person." He continued casually, "It's not that I can't do a body search. My girlfriend is suspected and I have to prove my innocence. If the results show that I'm guilty, I'll bear all the consequences and responsibilities. But if I'm not, I'll have to trouble your mall to give a reasonable explanation and compensation. Also you." Qinzhou's gaze suddenly fell on the store manager. "Get out of here." His tone was calm, but there was an air of authority about it. When the store manager heard this, he was nervous and unhappy. No matter how big of a figure he was not the management of this mall. What right did he have to say that he should get lost just because he was told to? However, the mall manager knew that he couldn't afford to offend a ruthless person like Qinzhou. Thus, he quickly smiled and said, "Why do you need to search me? You're making a mountain out of a molehill. We're not the ones making a big deal out of nothing." Qinzhou naturally categorized Liang Yin as the same as him. When Liang Yin heard this, she did not say anything. However, with Qinzhou around, she felt an inexplicable sense of security. Even though she had Qinzhou's support, she still explained, "I came to the counter because I wanted to buy some jewelry, but the staff at the counter obviously didn't want to serve me. Just as I was about to leave, I was stopped. They said that they suspected me of stealing, but I said I didn't steal, so I really didn't steal. If I had stolen, I wouldn't have been able to get away with it. If it's not mine, I shouldn't take it. Even a child knows this." After a pause, she continued, Similarly, respecting a person's character and dignity is a basic principle. Doesn't your mall have this basic principle? This was a serious matter, but it was a human rights issue. Chapter 3972. This was a serious matter, but it was a human rights issue. The manager did not dare to be negligent. Although Qin Zhou had said that he was willing to be searched, the problem was, did he dare to? Qin Zhou's gaze was cold. If one were to use an idiom to describe the expression on his face, it was frighteningly gloomy. It was a kind of coldness that Liang Yin had never seen before. When Qin Zhou said that she was willing to cooperate with the search, she didn't feel sad at all. She knew that Qin Zhou wouldn't let her suffer any losses. At that time, if he was really searched, not only would the store manager be fired, he would also lose his official position. Even if this woman really stole hundreds of thousands of yuan worth of jewelry, he would not dare to search her. If he really found something, he would offend Qin Zhou even more. Hence, the manager naturally wanted to turn the tide. "Co Qin, this is our fault. We are very sorry that this lady had a bad shopping experience. We will definitely improve our service standards in the future. At the same time, we absolutely believe that this lady is absolutely innocent. We will definitely not do a body search. Please rest assured." The store manager was hesitant. "But, manager, shut up." The manager turned to her and scolded, "You work at the Bulgari counter, right? As the store manager, don't you know the purpose of the counter? That is to respect the customers. How on earth did a person like you become a store manager? From today onwards, you are no longer the store manager of Bulgari. Pack your bags and get lost." The store, shut up. The manager was afraid that she would speak too much and offend Qin Zhou. If she said another word, he would strangle her to death. The store manager had some foresight. When she saw the manager's fierce gaze, she immediately understood that even if this woman really stole the jewelry, there was nothing she could do. At this moment, the store manager heard her cell phone ring. She was puzzled. She picked up her cell phone and saw that it was a call from one of the employees. She walked to the side and answered the call quietly. As soon as the call connected, she heard the excited chatter of the employees. "Store manager, we found the ring." "Huh?" The store manager did not react in time. What was going on? Didn't they say that the ring was missing? How did they find it again? What was going on? Her mind was blank, as if it had been bombed by an atomic bomb. "Oh, it's Lin Lin." The ring fell into the gap of the ring holder. She looked for it for a long time but could not pry it open. It's here, it's here." This was great news. The store manager's face turned pale. The ring. She found it? Could it be that they had really wrongly accused someone? This was not good. The manager also heard something and quickly winked at the store manager, telling her not to say anything. The store manager understood what was going on, so he didn't say anything. However, Qin Zhou's ears were sharp, and he caught the slightest hint of rustling grass in the wind. "Oh, you found the ring?" Found, didn't find." The store manager tried to evade him. Qin Zhou asked her further, "You find it or not find it, not find it? Make it clear." Chapter 3973. "Co Qin, let's end this matter here. Regardless of whether the ring was found or not, we'll take responsibility for this loss." The manager hurriedly stepped forward to smooth things over. "You must be tired after rushing all the way here. Come, let me treat you to a cup of tea in the office." "There's no need for that." Qin Zhou pushed him aside and shot a cold glare at the store manager. "Did you think that you could fool me with such a petty trick like diverting my attention?" He said slowly, "I heard over the phone that the ring was found. How are you going to explain this matter?" The manager's face turned red and his body stiffened. The store manager didn't know what to do and stood there in a daze. Liang Yin heard it too. She turned her face away angrily and clenched her fists. However, when she heard that the ring was finally found, she felt relieved. The police officer was also asking for a snub. He stood at the side and smoked. They didn't have much to say in this situation. The manager hardened his heart and said firmly, "I will definitely give you a perfect explanation for this matter, Co Qin." "Oh, then I'll wait and see." In the end, the matter ended with a public apology and financial compensation. Naturally, the store manager couldn't keep his position. Even the manager had to bear the consequences of reporting the matter. Liang Yin didn't know how the matter was resolved. She sat in the reception room the whole time and was served good tea and snacks. The people in the public relations department were trembling in fear, afraid that they would miss out on anything. When Qin Zhou came to pick her up and the two of them walked out of the mall, Liang Yin rubbed her red and swollen eyelids and smiled at him. "Thank you, Qin Zhou." Qin Zhou turned around calmly. When he heard her, he asked casually, Thank me for what? If you hadn't arrived, I wouldn't know how to resolve this matter. You should have told me first. Qin Zhou continued. If I had stepped in, this matter would have been easy to resolve. I'm just angry. Anger appeared on Liang Yin's face. What right do they have to search me? I just feel that it's unfair that they thought I was a thief based on a one-sided view. Actually, a body search isn't a big deal to me. I just didn't want them to get away with it. Qin Zhou smiled. You're extraordinarily stubborn. Liang Yin pursed her lips. She knew that she was a little stubborn. Why did you want to shop at Bulgari? Qin Zhou pretended to ask casually. When Liang Yin heard this, she looked away guiltily and stammered, I'm just bored, so I came to shop. As she said this, she sighed in her heart. In the end, she didn't find the cuff links for him. I see. Qin Zhou chuckled. It's true that people will be prejudiced against you if you wear this to Bulgari. After all, the shop assistants at these counters have sharp eyes. They can tell at a glance how much you're wearing and where you bought it. There's also the nouveau riche who's who's. The nouveau riche won't come to Bulgari. Why? Some of them don't even know what Bulgari is. They only know Chanel, Dior and L'Oreal. Moreover, the more a nouveau riche is, the more he has to wear gold and silver and dress well. When Liang Yin heard this, she raised her eyebrows. All right. Well, I'm too poor to be looked down upon. Qin Zhou silently glanced at her and slowly smiled. Chapter 3974. Tonight? Was he asking her out? Liang Yin asked curiously, What's the matter? It's about signing a contract. I want to talk to you about it. Signing a contract? Liang Yin was really flattered. Is it signing a contract with you? Yes, with Huan Yu, Qin Zhou replied. Liang Yin pondered for a moment. Then, will you be my manager? Qin Zhou heard this and asked with interest, You want me to be your manager? Liang Yin nodded her head vigorously. I think you're very capable and you know how to take care of people. If you're my manager, you'll definitely learn a lot. The most important thing was that she would have more opportunities to interact with him. As the saying goes, the pavilion closest to the water enjoys the moonlight first. Liang Yin actually wanted to put on an act. It would be even better if she could spend more time with Qin Zhou. Actually, this was the best time to confess her feelings. But what if she got rejected? Then, it would be very awkward. What if Qin Zhou didn't like her at all? What if she confessed to him and he avoided her instead? In any case, she should try to get him to be her manager first. Then, she could naturally cultivate their relationship. Anyway, there was still a long way to go. There would be more opportunities in the future. Liang Yin muttered in her heart. Seeing that she was in a daze, Qin Zhou didn't say anything. We'll talk about the details later. Also, there's something I want to tell you. If I become your manager, I'll get a very high commission. How high? Liang Yin asked curiously. For the first contract period, it'll be split in 37. 37? Liang Yin did some calculations. It wasn't too high. If she could get 70%, it would be a considerable amount. Seeing that she didn't seem to take it seriously, Qin Zhou reminded her again. You get 30%, I get 70%. Qin Zhou raised his eyebrows. What? You can't accept it? No. I'm okay with it. Liang Yin looked nervous as if she was afraid that Qin Zhou would go back on his word. Qin Zhou blinked his eyes and curled his lips into a smile. It seemed that this girl was really interested in him. He couldn't hide his thoughts at all. However, Qin Zhou did not realize that this smile of his was so charming that Liang Yin was bewitched to the point that she was dizzy. Heavens, heavens, how could there be such a handsome man in this world? It turned out that there really was such a person in this world. When he smiled, it was as if there were stars hidden in his eyes. Liang Yin peeked at him, trying to suppress the love in her heart. There are trees on the mountain and branches on the tree. The heart pleases the Lord, but the Lord does not know. Qin Zhou feigned ignorance. However, how could this shrewd man not see that the girl in front of him had feelings for him? Hey, why are you two together? When Hua Jin saw Qin Zhou and Liang Yin appear together, he was so shocked that his eyes widened. Then, as if he had discovered some adultery, his eyes narrowed. You don't tell me? Liang Yin glared at him. Don't spout nonsense. Hua Jin immediately said aggrievedly, I haven't said anything yet. Why are you feeling so guilty? Liang Yin felt even more guilty after being teased by him. Wasn't she making it obvious that she was trying to hide something? Something happened, Qin Zhou explained. Naturally, Hua Jin had to be concerned. Qin Zhou didn't hide the truth from him and told him the whole story. When Hua Jin heard that Liang Yin had been mistaken for a thief, not only did he not sympathize with her, he even laughed heartlessly. Chapter 3975. You went to the Bulgari counter dressed like that. It would be strange if they didn't think you were a thief. Liang Yi knew that Hua Jin meant no harm, but she still retorted, "Can you not judge a book by its cover? Can you judge a person based on what they wear? Actually, with your looks you really don't need to go to Bulgari." Liang Yin was speechless when Hua Jin said that. "How was it? Did you get anything today?" Hua Jin asked curiously. "Did you buy a gift?" Liang Yin was stunned. Qin Zhou was interested. "What gift?" "It's..." Before Hua Jin could say anything, Liang Yin anxiously rushed over and covered his mouth. "Don't say it." Her sudden action shocked Hua Jin. He rolled his eyes at Liang Yin and said helplessly, "Let go." Liang Yin shushed him. "It's a secret, okay? Don't say it." "Okay. You can let go now." Qin Zhou sized up the two of them with a meaningful look in his eyes. "Don't tell me you have feelings for Liang Yin?" On the way back, Hua Jin sat in the front passenger seat and asked curiously, "You seem to treat her differently? Don't tell me you have feelings for her." Qin Zhou smiled but did not say anything. "You haven't managed an artist for so many years. Now that you say you want to manage Liang Yin, are you planning to support her?" Qin Zhou said honestly, "Whether I want to support her or not depends on her potential. If she doesn't have potential, there's no point in supporting her." Liang Yin said she wants to enter the entertainment industry. It sounds like she wants to be a celebrity. Actually, you're so smart, can't you tell? Qin Zhou did not comment, nor did he try to hide it from Hua Jin. "I know." Hua Jin continued, "You can tell that she likes you too. Indeed, when you like someone you can't hide your feelings no matter what." Qin Zhou asked him back, "What do you mean by like?" "I don't understand. What does she like about me?" Qin Zhou seemed to be asking her, but at the same time he seemed to be talking to himself. He really couldn't understand what Liang Yin liked about him. In the past, those women liked him, adored him, and chased after him because he had something they needed. Fame, profit, resources, and exposure. What they could offer was their own bodies. What Qin Zhou could give them was also what they needed. However, what about Liang Yin? What did she like about him and what did she want from him? Qin Zhou was a very rational person. He was so rational that he would try his best to analyze the situation. However, he couldn't figure out what level Liang Yin's love for him was on. "You're handsome." Hua Jin was the first to say, "Nowadays girls are picky about looks at first sight. You have the face of a celebrity who can debut. You must have left a good impression." "Just based on looks?" Qin Zhou couldn't help but smile. "Just because of this reason she can easily talk about love. She's really a young girl who hasn't grown up yet." Hua Jin rolled his eyes helplessly. "To her you're an old bull and she's a young grass. She's still young. Moreover." Chapter 3976. Using rational thinking to explore something as irrational as love, is there a problem in itself? Qin Zhou frowned but didn't say anything. "Moreover, Qin Zhou, have you ever loved someone? Do you know what love is? Love isn't just because you have a woman and you've been together. That's love. Actually, I don't think you understand what it means to like someone at all." Hua Jin's words had a huge impact on Qin Zhou's emotions. He didn't count as love? Those women in the past didn't count as love? Qin Zhou came back to his senses and glanced coldly at Hua Jin through the rearview mirror. His tone was obviously unhappy. "You seem to be unusually talkative today." Hua Jin also realized that Qin Zhou was impatient, so he laughed and said, "I drank too much, don't mind me." Qin Zhou snorted coldly and didn't say anything else. It was dead silent in the car. For Qin Zhou, feelings should be a reason for an equivalent exchange. You give me a sense of security and I give you warmth. To him it was just a ritual exchange. The reason why people liked someone was purely because they were lonely. Therefore, they wanted to comfort themselves and fall in love regardless of their own safety. At the end of the day, humans were still selfish creatures. In order to give their feelings something to rely on, they wanted to find someone they liked at all costs to satisfy themselves. Therefore, Qin Zhou had always disapproved of things like feelings. He felt that the real sacred love was too marvelous and dignified to be praised by others. He didn't like to be superficial. The two of them were just looking for what they wanted under the guise of love. Hua Jin asked, "Do you like her?" Qin Zhou didn't say anything. Hua Jin bumped his arm and said, "Answer my question." He asked in return, "If someone likes you, must you reciprocate?" Hua Jin laughed and quickly tried to distance himself from her. "I didn't say that." Qin Zhou smiled. "I don't think I like her. I just feel that she's a little interesting. Sometimes I also feel that she's very cute." For many years, he hadn't had such a girl who brought him a different kind of joy. Hua Jin snorted and said, If you don't like her, you should break up with her as soon as possible. Based on my understanding of her, she's such a coward. She would never confess to you so early. If this situation continues, she might spend a few years of her youth on you. If you don't like her, don't waste your time. However, I feel that feelings can still be nurtured. I feel that Liang Yin isn't bad. Qingzhou hissed. So, are you trying to matchmake us or dissuade us? I didn't say anything. It's your decision. I'm just a bystander. As he spoke, Hua Jin said enviously, it's so nice that there's still such a simple-minded girl in this world. If you like someone, you'll like him. You'll like him silently, and your heart will fluctuate because of his every move. I haven't felt this way in a long time. Unrequited love was the truest feeling in the world. She liked him. Perhaps because of his smile, the world would suddenly become bright and sunny. Perhaps because of his words, the world would become stormy. Chapter 3977. When Qingzhou heard this, his gaze went blank for a moment. Liang Yin returned home, took a shower, brushed her teeth and lay on the bed. She opened the gift box on the stool and inside were 3 pink champagne roses. These were the flowers that the restaurant had given her for dinner and Qingzhou had given them to her. To her, these were undoubtedly gifts from Qingzhou. She took a vase from the balcony. After washing it clean, she put in some nutrient soil and filled it with water. Then, she carefully placed the 3 champagne roses into the vase. This was the first time in her life that she had received flowers from someone. Even though she knew that roses like these were hard to grow and would wither easily, she still couldn't bear to throw them away. Instead, she took care of them carefully. She placed them on the windowsill. She leaned on the table and stared at the blooming roses in the vase in a daze. This was the time when the roses were at their most beautiful. She was mesmerized for a moment. The next day she rushed to the set to sign in. As Qingzhou had arranged for her to join the set, the crew members were especially enthusiastic about her. After arranging for her to stay in a hotel, she was pleasantly surprised to find that she was staying in the room next to Hua Jin's. They were neighbors again. This was good. At least staying next to Hua Jin meant that they were more familiar with each other. On the set, to her, everything was unknown and unfamiliar. Although she had acted for Hua Jin before, now that she had returned to her role, the experience was different. After putting away her luggage, she took out the vase from the tightly wrapped plastic bag and carefully placed it on the windowsill, trying to let it bask in more sunlight. The doorbell suddenly rang. Liang Yin turned around in confusion, thinking that it was Hua Jin. She immediately went up and opened the door, only to see a stranger. Oh. She was sluggish for a few seconds before she reacted quickly. She recognized the man in front of her as the general manager she had seen at the department store yesterday. Why are you here? Liang Yin's face quickly revealed a conflicted expression. It was obvious that she was still brooding over what had happened yesterday. She wasn't a petty person, but she wasn't a magnanimous person either. She would easily throw the unpleasant matter to the back of her mind. Liang Yin asked impatiently, "What are you doing?" "Miss Liang, hello. It's like this. For yesterday's unpleasant matter, we would like to sincerely apologize to you once again. This is a small token of our appreciation. We hope you can accept it." As the manager spoke, the assistant behind him respectfully presented a gift box. The assistant opened the gift box and saw that the exquisite packaging was covered with a thick layer of pink rose petals, and in the middle lay a small but extremely bright jewelry box. The reason why it was described as resplendent was because the surface of the box was inlaid with sparkling and translucent crystals. Liang Yin looked at them suspiciously. "What's this?" "This is a small gift from us. We hope you'll accept it." "Intentions?" "You'll know when you open it." Liang Yin carefully opened the box, only to see a pile of purple pearl earrings inside. Her expression froze. "Jewels? I hope you like it." The manager's expression was as sincere as it could be. However, Liang Yin did not seem to like it, nor was she happy. Chapter 3978. You're just trying to please Qingzhou. For some reason, Liang Yin was a little angry. Actually, be it the Bulgari store manager or the manager of the shopping mall, they were all very nice people. "You don't feel guilty at all for wrongly accusing me?" "We're sincerely apologizing to you." Liang Yin sneered. "Humph, you're apologizing because you're afraid of Qingzhou. You're afraid that he'll catch up with his drama. You're apologizing not because you respect me, but because you're afraid of taking responsibility." When the manager heard this, he felt very wronged. "Oh my God, isn't that nonsense? Qingzhou already said that you're his woman. How could they dare to offend you?" "Miss Liang, please understand. You've indeed suffered a lot yesterday and there were many unpleasant things. I hope that you can calm down and don't take this matter to heart. Liang Yin had no choice but to close the door. The manager immediately blocked the door shamelessly. It was obvious that he wouldn't give up until Liang Yin said, "I forgive you." His face was distorted from sticking to the door, but the manager still didn't intend to give up. "Miss Liang, it's like this." The manager took a deep breath and started to nag. "After you and President Qin left yesterday, I deeply understood the seriousness of this matter. We've already issued a notice to fire the store manager of the Bulgari store and will never hire her again. We swear that if something like this happens again." Liang Yin didn't know what he said or how long he had been talking. Anyway, she only felt that there were countless flies buzzing around her ears. Finally, she couldn't take it anymore and said impatiently, "Fine, fine, fine, I forgive you. Can you not be like a fly buzzing around my ear non-stop?" Calluses were about to form on her ears. The manager was wild with joy. "Really? You're really willing to forgive me? As long as you disappear from my sight immediately, I'll forgive you. Please stop bothering me, okay?" As soon as she finished speaking, the manager didn't dare to say anything else. He immediately disappeared from her sight with his assistant. Liang Yin was dumbfounded. She didn't know how terrifying Qin Zhou's pressure was, or if Qin Zhou had already pressured the department store without her knowledge. Otherwise, why would the manager come all the way here to ask for her forgiveness? Qin Zhou? In the room, Liang Yin sat curiously in front of Hua Jin. She was puzzled as to why Qin Zhou had such a terrifying influence. At the mention of Qin Zhou, Hua Jin was obviously a little speechless. "I noticed that your recent topics revolve around him. As the saying goes, only by knowing yourself and your enemy can you win every battle." Liang Yin said matter-of-factly, "If I don't understand him, how can I get what he likes?" Qin Zhou used to be a top manager, especially after he made Gu Xingze famous. Thanks to Gu Xingze's influence, he managed to get more resources in his hands. Gu Xingze? Liang Yin was suddenly a little stunned. Didn't Gu Xingze pass away? Hua Jin sighed as he said this. Chapter 3979. Gu Xingze was a superstar created by Qin Zhou. Ever since Gu Xingze's debut, he had never experienced any low points. The two of them made each other what they were and at the same time made each other. In private, the two of them put aside their work relationship, but at the same time they were very close friends. Qin Zhou rarely used the term close friends to describe someone. Gu Xingze was the same. The relationship between the two of them was no different from that of a family member. Gu Xingze's death was a huge blow to Qin Zhou. He used to be humorous and loved to joke, but now he seemed to be a little quiet. It was even difficult for him to open up to others. Gu Xingze was really the youth of a generation. Hua Jin sighed at the same time. "I used to envy Gu Xingze, but now I feel that it's a pity for him. I've always heard that he had depression. Is that right?" "Yes." Hua Jin laughed at himself. "Actually, I'm not surprised. This is a playground. As you can see, when you're filming, no matter how bad your mood is, you have to put your heart and soul into the role. I once saw a very popular actress. Before an interview, because of her low EQ, she kept crying in the waiting room. When the cameramen and reporters arrived, she wiped her tears and touched up her makeup. When she faced the camera, she laughed and chatted. When the interview ended, she broke down and cried again. At that time, I felt that such a person's life was really too painful. She couldn't even live her life as she wanted. Then why did she still accept the interview? Because it was her job." Hua Jin continued, "When you enter the industry and become famous, it's not up to you to decide whether you want to advance, retreat, or leave. Fortunately, I have a very good manager who can protect me. At least, when I'm feeling down, I don't have to pander to anyone, and I don't have to look at anyone's eyes. It's more free." "Yes." Liang Yin asked again, "Have you thought about when you'll end your acting career?" "Didn't I tell you before?" Hua Jin said, "When I earn enough money to travel around the world, I'll decide to quit the entertainment industry." "You still have a utopia in your heart." Liang Yin smiled. "I thought that everyone in this industry, no matter who they are, would want to strive to be the best." "I used to think so too." Hua Jin sighed. "But shouldn't people live for themselves? In fact, I'm quite clear about life. Sometimes, no matter how rich you are, you can't get the life you want. I feel that this kind of life is not what I want. So, since I know what I want, why should I be reluctant to leave things that I shouldn't?" When Liang Yin heard this, she couldn't help but be a little absent-minded. The next day, Huanyu office building. Qin Zhou specially sent a car to pick up Liang Yin and officially sign the contract. In the conference room, Qin Zhou and a few of Huanyu's higher-ups were all present. Liang Yin sat down and Qin Zhou let her have a look at the contract. Liang Yin also looked at it carefully. When she reached the revenue-sharing part of the agreement, she was a little surprised. Qinzhou had signed a 50-50 split with the company. "Didn't you say it's a 30-70 split?" Qinzhou smiled and asked, "Didn't I also say that I won't personally manage artists anymore?" Liang Yin was stunned for a moment before she suddenly laughed. "You don't keep your word." Chapter 3980. You're going back on your word. You're still pretending to be innocent. Qinzhou was annoyed and put out his cigarette. "Is there a problem? You can bring it up now. After all, we haven't officially signed the contract yet. Any suggestions can still be discussed. You make it sound like I'm signing a contract to sell myself." "That's true." Qinzhou pointed at the contract and said, "This is a contract to sell yourself." "I'm only concerned about one thing," Liang Yin asked tentatively. "If I want to fall in love one day, can I be free to do so?" Qinzhou smiled and said meaningfully, "That depends on who it is. Looks like it's really an overbearing contract. You don't even have the basic freedom to fall in love." Qinzhou snorted. "So, it's not too late for you to back out now." Liang Yin pursed her lips and smiled, but she didn't say anything. Instead, she grabbed the pen and signed her name directly. At the same time, she pressed her thumbprint. Qinzhou suddenly asked, "Why do you want to enter this industry?" Liang Yin raised her head and looked at him seriously. She answered honestly, "I just want to become a better woman." Only by becoming better could she be a match for him. She couldn't muster up the courage to confess because she felt that she didn't have the confidence to be in a relationship with such a good man. Only when they were on the same level could their relationship last longer. Liang Yin felt that she wasn't good enough, so she wanted to work hard to become better. "I'm done signing." Qinzhou saw that she was done signing and took the contract over. He stamped the official seal and signed his name. A few of the higher-ups lowered their heads and looked down. They kept sizing up Qinzhou and Liang Yin. At first, when they heard that Qinzhou was going to make a comeback and manage an artist again, they were puzzled. After all, with Qinzhou's current qualifications, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he was highly respected in Huanyu. As an honorary director of Huanyu, he didn't need to manage an artist personally. However, when Qinzhou mentioned that he wanted to sign Liang Yin, they were puzzled. What kind of artist would make Qinzhou want to manage her personally? Hence, they wanted to see what kind of newcomer would make Qinzhou personally come. In the end, looking at it, it seemed like it was not as shocking as they had imagined. In this industry there were many stunning beauties. Huanyu's #1 actress, Yun Shishir, was considered to be in a semi-retired state. However, with her beautiful looks and heaven-defying acting skills, it was still difficult for anyone to shake her position. However, after Yun Shishir, the female artistes were indeed lacking in stamina. Huanyu's higher-ups also wanted to groom a few more female celebrities as Yun Shishir's successors. Liang Yin was indeed a good choice. But it wasn't enough to make Qinzhou personally bring her over. Therefore, some people suspected that there must be something going on. However, Qinzhou would never sleep with an actress, so there was definitely no relationship between the two of them. Could it be Qinzhou is interested in Liang Yin? Or was it some special relationship? They couldn't figure it out. Qinzhou stood up and said, "All right. It's getting late, let's have a meal together." The group immediately agreed with a smile.